in months, and even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff, even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover guitar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Dear John, I was hoping it wouldn't come to this, but you've left me no choice. I'm leaving. Uncontrolled high blood pressure is really serious, and lately you seem to really not care. I've been there for you since day one, and I know you think I'm going to keep ticking. But no, my friend, I can quit whenever I want. Why can't we get back to the good times, when we were more active and ate more healthy foods, and you checked on me every once in a while? Is that too much to ask? I don't want to leave, but unless you stop ignoring me, what else am I supposed to do? Remember, when I quit, you quit. Sincerely, your heart.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Doing the minimum to control your high blood pressure isn't doing enough. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get your blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late. Find out how at heart.org/blood pressure. Check, change, control. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jason Derulo. I love that music connects to people all over the country. But unfortunately, so does something else. Childhood hunger. 15 million kids struggle with hunger right here in America. And yet, every year, billions of pounds of surplus food in the U.S. go to waste instead of going to the children in need. Feeding America is working to change this. The Feeding America nationwide network of food banks rescues this surplus of food to help provide meals to families in virtually every community in the United States, including yours. But they just can't do this alone. Join me in the fight against hunger in America. For more information on what you can do to get involved, visit feedingamerica.org. That's feedingamerica.org. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America. A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hey, everyone. Let's all stop what we're doing right now and take a moment. That felt good, huh? Just like that, we had a nice, special sort of moment together. Of course, they don't all need to be quiet moments to be special. They could be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments, moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count. Because every time dads like us take a moment like that to spend with our kids, well, it's pretty momentous. Sounds like somebody agrees. So let's take a moment to make a moment. Today, call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Music is a bridge between the material and the spiritual. My name is Harvey Lauer, and I'm 82. As a blind person, you have to be aware that nobody can tell you what you can or can't do. You really have to try things. My folks got me a little radio in 1940, and that was the best Christmas present I ever got. When I was 11 years old is when I started to play music, play the piano, and then the accordion, and then the cello. My wife, who was also blind, was a good cook. When she died, that's when I started Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
It's Meals on Wheels. 1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Hi, I'd like to report a bear hug.
Uh-huh, okay. Well, we were building a bonfire, and I saw some, dry brush and leaves around, so, I said to move the bonfire somewhere else, and out of nowhere, Smokey Bear shows up and hugs me.
So you noticed some wildfire hazards and moved your bonfire to a safer location.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Smokey, all right. He likes it when people help prevent wildfires. It hits him close to home. Not everybody gets the hug, my friend. So that's pretty special to get a hug from Smokey Bear.
So it was him. Hey, guys, I told you it was Smokey.
Okay, well, congratulations, my friend. And thanks for calling. There are many ways to prevent a wildfire. Learn how you can do your part at smokeybear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. Waking up every day, lifting him from the bed to the wheelchair to the car to get him to therapy on time, it's no small task between the doctors and the diagnosis, but nothing can disable this love. This is my big brother, my hero. He's part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. See, there's no time for tired. This starts again tomorrow. He'll be waiting for me. I wake up for him. I know he needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community, or call 877-333-5885. Caregiving Resource Center. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do. Tell the world I see with an emoji to stop the bullies.
Know someone who's being bullied online? Send the witness emoji. It looks like an eye in a speech bubble, and it's in the symbol section near the clocks in your phone. You'll let the world know it isn't cool, and you'll let your friend know you care. Learn more about the witness emoji at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. Feedthepig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to mooch off your friends.
You gonna finish that grape?
You mean the one in my mouth?
You don't need to stop buying the necessities.
What you're smelling is a natural musk.
Ew.
You don't need to be a medical test subject.
How do you feel?
Mostly okay. Sometimes, though.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman.
We need a new stuntman. Let's break for lunch.
You just need an internet connection. Don't get left behind. Start your personal savings plan with the tips and tools on feedthepig.org. That way, you don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
All right, deal.
Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
When is the best time to talk to your family about staying in touch during a disaster? When floodwaters reach your door? When wildfires are engulfing the edge of your neighborhood? Or an earthquake is destroying buildings? When a tornado is tearing through town? Or a hurricane strikes? Or is the best time perhaps today? During a disaster, you may not be able to stay in touch with your family or friends as easily as you think. And it's not always as simple as using your cell phone. That's why now is the time to take action. Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver. but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. As a volunteer, you deliver a hot, nutritious meal and a friendly hello to someone just like your mother, grandfather, or next door neighbor. These seniors are inspiring people with incredible stories to share, and they love to see you. The smiles you get back are priceless. Delivering with Meals on Wheels is easy, and you don't have to drive like me for it to be quick. You can volunteer your lunch break once a week or just once a month. With 1 in 6 seniors facing hunger and many more living in isolation, your lunch break can make a real difference. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
What are you talking about?
No, it's not him. There is only one more. There is only one more. That's it. One more.
Get her ass!
No!
They saw your team put up zero effort.
Wake up!
Remember in the old days, they used to have oxygen for them. Where's the oxygen?
Play like absolute just garbage.
This is the Sports Loudmouths.
Yay!
Man, can you keep it down? I'm trying to introduce here. With Errol Marks and Speedy Beatty.
You're not even a has-been. You're a never was. You're a never was.
May 30th. It is a Tuesday, not a Wednesday. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. 631-672-3108 is the number to call. Remember, you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Sports Loudmouths, which airs every single Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and Thursdays at 9 p.m. only on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You can check us out by going to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. I want to give an announcement. The reason why we're doing the show tonight is I have a bunch of stuff going on Wednesday, and so does Speedy. So we have moved the show tonight or this week to Tuesday. So we will not be doing a show tomorrow. We will have a show on Thursday, so stay tuned for that. But before we get into the announcement of who we're going to have on the show tonight, Speedy, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Hope everyone had a good Memorial Day weekend. I want to
Happy Memorial Day.
And I also want to give a salute to service to all the soldiers that sacrificed their lives for this country, fought in so many different wars throughout our history, including my grandfather, my father's father, who was involved in the Korean War for a while. So a salute to all the military out there at this Memorial Day.
Absolutely. And to me, Memorial Day is something not only for the vets, but for all the people that wave the flags in the sky and salute everything about what our country stands for. So it is a very special day, and happy Memorial Day to everybody. I hope everybody enjoyed it, enjoyed their barbecues, their parties. I did. I was out in the sun dealing with a bunch of people. So at a country club, DJing. But nevertheless, I had a good time, good food, and entertained a lot of people, not only on the mic, but on the turntables. We have a great show lined up for you. At 7:30, we'll be talking a long-time NYFD firefighter and Jets fan, Edwin, Fireman Ed, Anzalone. He will be joining us for the first time on our show. If you're a Jet fan, you know who Fireman Ed is. He'll be joining us at 7:30. At 8 o'clock, we'll be talking to 4for4 Fantasy Football and BetSperts Fantasy Football Handicapping analyst, John Daigle. And yes, this will be his long-time awaited what would we say that, Speedy? How would we use the
triumphant
word?
Return.
No, he's been here 5 times.
Yeah.
So it has to be a bigger word. We have to spread that word out. The interword. What is an interword? Give me a good interword, and we'll get back to it.
Return?
No, it's with an in. An something inter. Think of a word. Anyways, tonight we will get into the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup matchups, and they are set. The Nuggets versus the Heat, and yes, the Golden Knights versus the Florida Panthers, who I think is going to absolutely win this series. Peter Laviolette, reportedly the favorite to get the Rangers head coaching job. That's a good sign for the New York Rangers. Maybe they'll win on something.
The 76ers hired Nick Nurse as their new head coach. I love Nick Nurse. I think it's a great move by them. Cardinals released DeAndre Hopkins. Jimmy G reportedly failed his physical with the Raiders, and the Raiders added a new clause in his contract because of it. Could mean Tom Brady. I don't know. What would you think?
I wouldn't rule anything out at this point. That would be one way to unretire if you're Tom Brady.
Doug Mientkiewicz takes a shot at Alex Rodriguez and his legacy with the Yankees. Ooh, Dougie boy is back, and he's speaking. Why is he attacking Alex Rodriguez?
I don't know. He was only a Yankee for 1 year. It was very weird.
I mean, seriously, who cares? No, not intercourse, Doug.
Really, no one is getting involved with John Daigle. John Daigle's a wedding crasher, not that.
Let's parlay with Jonathan and Chaz. I guess we're not going to have our boy Mountain on tonight.
Doesn't seem like it, unless he's making a surprise appearance.
Bracket Wars matchup tonight. The number 10 seed Serena Williams versus the number 7 seed Lionel Messi. And at number 15, Sandy Koufax, number 15.
Yeah, again, there's a lot of good athletes in this.
Versus the number 2 seed Wayne Gretzky. Tom Brady can't do it. He's an owner. But anyways, he can opt out of the ownership if he decides he wants to take over as the quarterback.
Maybe he'll sell a stock to Jimmy G, and then he'll take over as the quarterback.
I don't know. I mean, we can go all over the place with this, but again, anything is possible. But let's get into the NBA, because we have a lot of football to get into with Fireman Ed. We'll talk about the Jets. We'll talk about the AFC East. We'll even talk about the quarterbacks in the AFC. That is, to me, probably the best list of quarterbacks that we have seen in one conference in the last 25 years. It's unbelievable how good. And me and Jeff were on the phone off air today, and we were talking about the quarterbacks and where do you put these quarterbacks in rankings in the AFC, knowing that all the divisions, every single one of them has a star quarterback in it, except maybe 2 or 3 teams. And he said the Patriots will probably have the worst quarterback of them all. But again, that doesn't mean that they can't win, because they have Bill Belichick as their head coach, and anything is possible. I think watching the NBA Finals, it gave me a lot of agita. Okay? I don't even think it did. It gave me a lot of agita. And over the weekend, I was speaking to a lot of Boston fans, Jeff being one of them, a couple of my friends, Mike, a.k.a., you know who he is, Mikey C., who used to do and actually do a show with me on the network. I spoke to a bunch of people for the past week, and I wanted to see what they thought about this comeback, this miraculous comeback that the Celtics made. And I have to give the Boston Celtics a lot of credit. Okay? I am not a Boston fan. I can't stand the Boston Celtics. But what I could say about this run, more than anything, I really did believe in the Boston Celtics in this series. As a matter of fact, in the last 2 games of this series, I thought Boston was going to run away in both of those games. They barely, obviously, they barely won in Game 6. It really was an amazing. They were losing by 1 with 2 seconds left on the clock. They miss a 3, and then White goes up with a layup with 0.1 seconds left on the clock. They took it all the way back to Boston, and Boston, obviously the Tatum injury, the ankle injury, really hurt them offensively and defensively. He tried to be, I guess, a tough guy, and to me, I give Jason Tatum a lot of credit, because I don't think a lot of players would have went back out there and played for his team. But that shows the team type of player he is. And Miami just had too much. Caleb, I forget.
Martin.
I'm sorry. What was it?
Martin.
I don't know. He go Martin. But Caleb Martin was the best player on the court throughout this series. He was the most dominant on the court. And I know everybody says Butler got the MVP. Jimmy Butler played well in the first 2 games. And then as soon as they put Robert Williams on him, he couldn't do anything. And everybody says, well, look at Game 7. Yeah, he played well in Game 7. He did. But that's because Caleb Martin was playing as well as he was. So eventually, in the second half, they were double-teaming Caleb Martin, and they were daring Jimmy Butler to shoot. And Bam Adebayo, I thought he played well against the Knicks. He did not play well in this series. He did not. And I don't care what anybody says. All the Miami fans, all over social media, on Twitter, saying Bam is still one of those players that you expect to show up week in and day out. He did not show up in that series against Boston. He did not. And Jaylen Brown, he was back and forth in this series. This has been a problem for Jaylen Brown his whole career in the playoffs. He'll show up a couple of games and then he'll disappear. He'll show up a couple of games and then he'll disappear. Jason Tatum, I feel bad for him. Because after he hurt his ankle and after he sat out for what? Almost the first quarter? He sat out for the rest of the first quarter. He came back in the second quarter and he played. And even though he couldn't move side to side and laterally, and he couldn't really do anything but shoot, and that's not his game. Jeff and me were talking about it today. His game is not about just shooting. He opens up and he spreads out the offense. He can go to the hole at will. He's a pretty good ball handler for his size. He couldn't do any of that. So they started running the offense through White. To me, and I said this to Jeff today, White is not known for his offense. He's known for his defense. And he played well. I thought he played well in this series. Jeff was looking at numbers today, and he was telling me the numbers. Actually, he wasn't. He didn't shoot very well in this series. But nevertheless, they ran the offense through White. They didn't run it through Jaylen Brown because Jaylen Brown wasn't playing well. And we all know what Robert Williams is. He's a rebounder, shot blocker, and he defended sensational against Jimmy Butler. There's no question that he did. He had a couple highlight dunks, too, in this series. But Miami, crazy to say this, was too much. Way, way too much for the Boston Celtics. And we could go back and forth and look at the rosters. And going into this series, Boston was the most talented team. There was no question. From top to bottom, they had the better team. Tyler Hero didn't even play throughout the playoffs because of his injury. And maybe if Tyler Hero was playing in this series, maybe we wouldn't have figured out why and who was Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin showed everybody what his worth is. And now looking at the big picture, who is probably going to expect a decent contract. I don't know what he is going to get paid, but he is going to be asking for a significant contract and a significant pay grade. I look at everything as a whole in this series, and Spoelstra was the better coach. There's no question. We all know what Spoelstra is. This guy's a winning coach. He's a Pat Riley disciple. We know who he is. But when it came to coaching in the big game, in the importance of the game, Spoelstra did what he needed to do defensively and even setting up the offense against this Boston Celtic team.
I even thought he outcoached, even though they lost the game in Game 6, I thought he outcoached Missoula too. And a lot of the reasons they came back in the second half and when they were down at certain points is because of those adjustments that they made. And Game 7, a lot of that too, where like you said, Jimmy Butler wasn't prolific in the first half. He got it going in the second half, but they got other guys going in that second quarter, that big second quarter. And their defensive rotations were fantastic in that Game 7 as well. The Celtics, it looked like we were going to score as bad as the Cavs did against the Knicks a lot of the times. It was that bad of an offensive struggle to start the game. But the depth that they managed, the Miami Heat all throughout this series, when their stars were off, were just better than what the Celtics were. You could tell when Jaylen Brown was off, there was just, and Jason Tatum was obviously playing hurt, kudos to him, but there was something off about the Celtics. Miami did that all series, managed it well when Adebayo and Butler weren't playing well.
And that's the thing. And we look at the series and we can go each game, word for word, really quarter to quarter, minute to minute, hour to hour, We can look at everything and compare and contrast this series. When it was 3-0, then it was 3-3, and then we were going into a game 7 where anything could happen in game number 7 in Boston. And I will tell you this, and Jeff gave me an what was it? A statistic, and I'm sure we have Jeff on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
So why don't we bring Jeff in?
All right.
Because he gave me a statistic, and if Boston won this game, they would have been the first city of Boston. Now, we all know the Boston Red Sox came back from a 3-0 deficit against the Yankees. If the Celtics did this against the Miami Heat, this would have been the first time a city has come back from a 3-0 deficit and won. So it's crazy. And both of them, as we know, the ALCS with the Yankees, and this was the Eastern Conference Finals. So this would have been the first time in the, I guess you can say, in the finals to go to that championship game. This would have happened for a Boston team. Now, Jeff, what's up, man?
Yeah, I'm here because sometimes I get accused of, oh, you didn't show up when your team loses. Well, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and I'll give you the stat that
Good. I wanted you to give the stat because you gave it to me today.
Speedy will appreciate this because it's good for a laugh. But Boston set a record last night. They are the first city in basketball and hockey to be knocked out at home by an 8 seed. Wow. In the same year.
Yeah, that is crazy.
It's crazy. But you want to know something? I do give the Boston Celtics a lot of credit for everything that they did in this series and
but the
making.
Knicks were better.
What happened? I'm sorry.
But the Knicks were better.
Well, we know the Knicks weren't better because the Knicks didn't come back against the Miami Heat. But the Knicks.
I got many texts from Knicks fans saying that the Knicks were better.
Well, at the point when we were texting with one another, not just me, but I don't know what other Knicks fan was writing to you. But at the point,
no, I don't know any other Knicks fans because I don't associate with mouth breathers.
When I texted you, the Knicks, the Miami Heat were up 3-1. Okay, and I expected.
It's also a ridiculous statement for you to make that statement because the Celtics made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks did not.
Okay, and the Celtics also beat a team that obviously they were better than. And that's the thing. And I'm not going back and forth about the Celtics. I was one of the guys that actually picked the Celtics to win that series. Okay, so I know you didn't, but I did. I thought the Celtics were the better team, and especially when they came back and they tied it to 3-3, I really thought in game number 7, the Boston Celtics were going to go home and surprise everybody and do what they do, and that's win.
Yeah, no, I thought that they were going to win it last night too, but from the first play of the game when Tatum rolled his ankle, that was it. It was done.
Yeah, and that's what I said.
Whole offense goes through Tatum,
mm-hmm.
and if he can't move, which he couldn't really, like, good for him for trying, I guess, because they didn't really have a better option. But like, it was over right from there.
Well, I also think when you look at this series as a whole, again, going back to Caleb Martin, nobody would have thought that Caleb Martin was going to play as well as he did. He was an undrafted player. He was a G League player for the last 2 years. He gets called up this year early in the season and played a big part on why Miami made the playoffs and then going all the way to the Eastern Conference and now the NBA Finals. It's an incredible story. It really is. And he is going to be asking for a decent chunk of change. And I think the Miami Heat should absolutely re-sign him. And if they don't, I'm sure there'll be a list of teams ready to re-sign him or sign him in the offseason.
I don't care. I want to trade Jaylen Brown. Let's get him out of here.
They turn over for too much.
Dude, first of all, you think you guys want to believe that that's one game. Like, that's his whole career. Like, I've been watching that. Like, he's a good player. That's fine. But he cannot dribble. Every time he tries to dribble, it's a turnover. And I've got the perfect scenario to fix all the Celtics problems.
Let's hear it.
Jaylen Brown for Damian Lillard.
Interesting.
I know. I think it's a very good trade. The Blazers get what they want in a franchise player. They get younger. Damian Lillard kind of doesn't want to be there. He wants to win. Send him to Boston. Okay, well that gets us a point guard. Okay, so we got to get rid of a point guard. I am for loading Marcus Smart into a cannon and firing him to the moon. Okay.
Well, you won't miss him with his green hair. That's for sure.
Can the Knicks send Julius Randle in the same cannon?
Because we have another good defender in Derek White.
Yep.
Brogdon's coming off the bench, and that could be our guard rotation. But we'd still have a hole at the 3 spot.
Mm-hmm.
Sign Cam Reddish.
Cam Reddish.
He's a guy that's just a spot up 3 shooter that doesn't need the ball in his hands. It's a catch and shoot guy that's not going to dribble like a retard. Let Damian Lillard handle the ball. You can still use Jason Tatum, and if the drive isn't there, kick it to Cam Reddish, knock down the 3. Problem solved. I'm the new GM of Boston Celtics. Sign me up.
You want to fire Brad Stevens?
Or he wants to promote him to coach. You want to promote him to coach again, Jeff?
Dude, first of all, Brad Stevens has done a pretty good job putting this roster together.
No,
right? And I've been trying to tell you about Robert Williams. I've been trying to tell y'all, the dude guarded Jimmy Butler. Name another dude over 7 feet that can guard Jimmy Butler. Go ahead, name one. And I know that you love your guy on the Knicks. Oh, offensive rebounds, whatever. That fat prick could have never guarded Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler would have ran right around him every time. And Robert Williams.
His name is Mitchell Robinson.
That prick.
Jeff, you are one for
Eddie
words.
Curry
That's for sure.
2.0. That's what he is. Eddie Curry 2.0.
Wow.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your information. Thank you for all your craziness, as always.
That's the solution to the Celtics' problems.
Well, I think Damian Lillard would not want to be traded. I think he wants to stay with Portland for the rest of his career, because if he wanted to be traded, he probably would have been traded 2 years ago.
He doesn't want to lose. He's sick of the losing.
How many years does Damian Lillard have left? I mean, seriously, at the top of his game?
Right. And I'll tell you why the Celtics are another great spot for him to go.
Why?
Because it reminds me of another situation when the Celtics won a championship.
Oh, yeah?
Which
one was that?
He's just short Kevin Garnett. That's what he would be, right? Come on into the Celtics.
Hold on.
Boost them up.
Hold on. You're comparing Kevin Garnett to Damian Lillard?
Let's look at what
I love
the
you,
Celtics,
Jeff. You're out of your mind.
It's a veteran player who's aging. They could lift the Celtics.
Kevin Garnett went to the Celtics at 31 years old, and by the way, he was still at the top of his game.
And Damian Lillard's at the top of his game. He's 30.
Yes, he's also forcing shots. He's the guy he's the only shooter on that Portland Trailblazer team.
He's forcing shots if he had other guys to play with. He's forcing shots on a terrible rebuilding Portland Trailblazers team. Let's recap here.
Mm-hmm.
What did the Celtics not do well last night? Because they defended, even with a hole in their defense because Tatum couldn't move, they still defended relatively well.
Mm-hmm.
The combo of Robert Williams and Derek White playing Jimmy Butler, it worked.
It did.
Slowed him down.
Nobody thought White was going to play as well as he did.
So what did the Celtics not do well last night? They missed every 3-pointer on the planet. Every one of them.
And in the first quarter. And in the fourth quarter, they got out rebound.
Right. But that's because they need to send their big guys down low, because they only put in smaller guys to shoot at the end of the game. That's the rebounding thing.
Mm-hmm.
That wouldn't be that. What does Damian Lillard do? He makes every 3 he looks at, knocks down big shots left and right, and that's what the Celtics needed.
All right.
And the other thing,
you lose rebounding if you trade Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's a good rebounder for his size.
If they trade Jaylen Brown, first of all, Jason Tatum's a rebounder, Al Horford's a rebounder, Robert Williams, by the way, unbelievable lob that he threw down. That one that he grabbed, that was a tip that he reached all the way back and then threw it down.
I said that he had a couple of good alley-oops. He did.
Right. So you'd still have those guys in the game. So, and Tatum might be their leading rebounder. Jaylen Brown doesn't get rebounds. Jaylen Brown's just a turnover machine. What does Damian Lillard not do? Terrific dribbler, doesn't turn it over.
All right, so let's see what Brad Stevens does this offseason. It's going to be a very interesting offseason. Jaylen Brown has 1 more year left on his contract. He is going to want a supermax contract. He is going to get close to 295 million if he stays with the Celtics. If he goes somewhere else, he's going to lose 15 million?
That's not true either.
What is it?
No, because you can do the sign and trade where he gets the supermax and you can
All right.
still ship him out.
Okay, if he wants to do that.
It's not up to him. You could just say, I'm trading you, and he's still going to be like, oh, okay, then that's what I'll do. I'll take the trade and go there.
I don't know, man. It's so interesting when you look at where the Celtics are right now and where they were in the beginning of the season.
But I think also if they traded him now, because he would play a year with the Trailblazers, he could probably still sign the supermax there, I think.
Yes, he can.
Right. So
Yes, he can.
That's not a factor then.
I'm interested.
You can just go and get it.
I'm interested to see what Brad Stevens does this offseason. It's going to be very interesting. If you're a Boston Celtics fan, I'm sure you're not happy on the play that they and I get they went to a game 7, but the way they played throughout the series, early in the series, they didn't look good. And in game 4, when they needed to show up in the fourth quarter, they bombed. Okay, that's what happened. They bombed. It exploded for them. And they played well. I thought they played well in game 6, even though they barely won that game, and it was a lucky. And I know what you're going to say. What's his name again? Missed a couple of threes. If he hit any one of those threes, they would have won.
Yeah, but it's not even that. When you go into the fourth quarter, you have a 9-point lead. It shouldn't just evaporate. Play harder, and that's been a problem for the Celtics all year. They've choked in games all year late, and it got them. It finally got them in the playoffs. That's why I want guys with heart. Give me Damian Lillard. He wants to win. Let's do this, Tiny Garnett.
Jeff, thank you for calling.
Love it. Sign up for my bookie.
Okay, there we go. Jeff, ladies and gentlemen, as always, fantastic. When we come back, we will be talking to longtime NYFD firefighter and Jets fan Edwin, Fireman Ed, Anzalone, here on the Sports Loudmouths.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind, like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind, like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama, like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ed Council.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve. It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is the Sports Loudmouths.
631-672-3108 is the number to call. You are listening to the Sports Loudmouths. I'm your host, Daryl Marks, my co-host, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week. They're live. This isn't a podcast. I've been hearing, let me hear your podcast. If you want to hear the replay of the show, you can go to Apple Podcasts, 1.5 million downloads. You can check out all our shows. There's 4 or 5 shows on our network. Fantastic, really content. You can check out us, the Sports Loudmouths, every single Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and Thursdays at 9 p.m. Tonight, we are live and in color here on Tuesday, and we have a very special guest, a New York Jet fan, probably the biggest one out there. We are now talking to longtime NYFD firefighter and Jets fan, Edwin, Fireman Ed, Anzalone. Fireman Ed. Ed, what's up, man?
How you doing, guys?
You look
Errol,
good. You look
Petey,
good.
how you doing, guys?
We're good, man. How are you and your family doing with COVID and everything that was going on over the last couple of years?
Everything's good, man. No problems. Thank God. You know, a lot of tragedies out there. I feel for
Absolutely.
people, but, hopefully we're through it. So,
well, you look happy. A little smile over there. Anybody would be smiling right now after hearing a trade going by over the last couple of weeks, and we've been hearing this over and over and over again before this season. Before the season ended, we were wondering where were the Jets going with the quarterback position. Zach Wilson did not play well last year, and they needed a veteran quarterback to come in. It wasn't Joe Flacco. It wasn't White. They had 3 quarterbacks playing. I think they had 14, 15 touchdowns all season long. They had more interceptions than touchdowns. It said enough to the Jets, even with 7 wins. And then throughout the last couple of weeks, you kept hearing before the draft, the Jets are going to get this done with Aaron Rodgers. They went to see him. They went to sit with him after he went into the tent of darkness, okay? He gets out of the tent of darkness, and he goes on the Pat McAfee show, and he says that he plans to be a New York Jet this year. And then we were waiting. And Joe Douglas said there's no doubt in his mind that they're going to get this done. They finally get it done. And I was shocked that the Jets were going to give up as much as they did. But when you look at the pieces, Ed, they didn't really give up as much as you think when you think about Aaron Rodgers and who he really is as a star quarterback in the NFL.
Hey, I agree with you totally. You got to give something up to get Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that's the first thing. You're going to give up a number 1 pick eventually, and that'll be next year.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, listen, Aaron, hopefully, I believe we're going to win a world championship with him, and that will be nothing. That compensation will be a joke when it's all said and done. So we need a little help from the football gods, a little health. Got to get a little health. And you got to get a little luck. And plenty of teams know about luck through the years to win a world championship. So, I'm excited. The Jet fans are really excited. And, rightfully so. The Jet fans have been waiting. We haven't been in the playoffs in 12 years. We haven't had a home playoff game in 21 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we have not won a world championship in 54 years. And, we're in the shadows of the Giant fans, and we know that. And, the Jet fan base is huge. They've been hiding in the weeds for years. There's nothing to cheer about. I look forward to the day that we can stack the wins, get home field for the first time ever in the playoffs. That's the mission. And raise that Lamar Hunt trophy. That's what the mission is. So 1 game at a time, stack the wins. Let's go. We're ready, and I know the Jets are ready.
All right, realistically, in the AFC and in the NFL, where do you think the Jets rank right now on their offseason?
I would say that the Jets are behind the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals. That's it. I don't believe they're behind the Buffalo Bills. We beat the Bills last year, and we should have beat them twice, but the kid broke his ribs. We were on our way to beat them again up there. So, I'm not as high on the Buffalo Bills as everybody else is. So,
we are talking to longtime NYFD firefighter and Jets fan, Edwin, Fireman Ed, Anzalone. Ed, we look at where the Jets have been over the last couple of years, and we talk about the GM. Everybody has really loved what Joe Douglas has done in the draft. Last year, they added Sauce Gardner, who became the defensive rookie of the year, and Garrett Wilson at number 10, who became the offensive rookie of the year. If Breece Hall didn't tear his knee in Denver. He probably becomes the offensive rookie of the year. Jermaine Johnson didn't play as much as we wanted to see him, but this year we're going to see a lot of him. What were your thoughts over the last couple of years and free agents, and then obviously bringing in the young rookies that they brought in the draft by Joe Douglas?
Yeah, Joe's done a great job. I mean, the team is loaded and ready. I mean, it's the third year for Coach Saleh, and Douglas has done a nice job with the personnel. The Jets have never gotten it right with the quarterback position, and that continues with Joe. But that continues with a lot of NFL teams. You got to get some luck. Look at Brady, was his 6th round pick. I mean, they didn't know what they had with him. You look over the course of the NFL, it's very hard to, that's the hardest position. If it was that easy, everybody'd be doing it, right? So I think that Joe's doing a hell of a job. I think he'll prove that this year. The fruits of his labor will be shown this year. Like I said, you got to stay healthy. And in the NFL, that's a hard thing to do. So I see them building depth. The roster's not complete. It's far from complete. What's going to happen here is June 1st, there'll be, contracts start to, you can push money and everything else with the salary cap. You're going to have guys that are going to be cut from other teams. I believe that a lot more guys are going to be looking to play with Aaron Rodgers. I just don't think the roster is complete. I mean, I think we have a real good roster, but I think you're going to see 2, 3, 4 more guys come here that people will be surprised at.
So what about the Quinnen Williams deal still being held up right now? He wants to make the 2nd highest paid defensive tackle money behind Aaron Donald. How do you think the Jets will get it done, and what kind of money do you see him getting?
I think Quinnen's going to get probably 75 to 80 million guaranteed, and he'll probably end up with around 25 million a year. That's
what I think.
That's probably what's going to happen. I actually think it'll be done. I believe it's going to be done in the next couple of weeks. I think they're waiting for June 1st, honestly.
Well, there were stories coming out on Twitter that it's getting closer. So I expect this to happen. I think it's all about the years now. I don't think it's about the money. I think the Jets are willing to pay him. It's just really the spread of years. How long are they going to give him? I'm hearing they want to give him 4. He wants 5. And Quinnen Williams is still very young. He's one of the best young defensive linemen in the league. And Aaron Donald, how many years does he have left? He wanted to retire last year before he got an extension. So there's a very good chance that in the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to be talking about Quinnen Williams as the next big thing, the next guy up from Aaron Donald and Jones, all these guys that have been dominant forces in front of the defensive line for their respectable teams. So, Ed, we look at your lifestyle as the voice of the New York Jets, and you go to every single home game. You're really the mascot for the New York Jets. You're everything for the Jet fans. Every time a Jet fan sees you, they want to take a picture with you. You're like you're the Aaron Rodgers of the Jets. You really are. And what is it like being the face and really the mascot for the New York Jets?
Well, first off, it's an honor, and it's humbling, that people even want to come up to you and want to take a picture with you. The first thing I was taught at a very young age was that if somebody wants to do that, right, you shake their hand and you ask them their name, because you make it personal, all right? Because it's not about you. It's about them, that they want to be able to take a picture with you. And, you're a regular guy, like I always say to people, I say, when you get a little bit of the spotlight, right, in life, people judge you, and we all do it. I'm as guilty as the next guy. What I always tried to say was, listen, there's going to be people that don't like me. If they knew me, I think they would think differently. But you can't change people's minds. All I can do is be me. My mom and dad raised me the right way, and I try to honor that. And it's like I said again, it's an honor that you're even in that position. Because I always joke. I say, I only spell 4 letters. If I had to spell Buccaneers, I'd be out of business. I'm not that smart. So it's all good. At the end of the day, We all love our sports. We're all passionate. I'm as passionate now as I've ever been. I'm as hungry now more than ever. All right. I'm 63 years young. I feel good. And knock on wood, I really feel like if things go the right way, we're going to have an opportunity to win this thing. And of course, listen, the game's played on a field and it's going to take a tough road. It's not going to be easy. But like I said, if you want to be the man, you want to win a championship, you got to be the man. Beat the man, right? So we'll see. It's all going to be in front of us. It's not like we're going to shy away from it. And I think we have the team to do it. And I know the fan base. That's why I want to see us get home field, because I believe that the fan base will that team, because that fan base is so hungry and so thirsty. We've been in the desert for so long that Aaron Rodgers has this water, and we want to follow him and get that water.
Aaron Rodgers is a cactus. That's what he is. He's the cactus.
Your lips to God's ears. Your lips to God's ears. But you know what? He's embracing New York. Yes. What I love best about Aaron Rodgers, and I've heard this from so many Jet fans, is not only did he pick us to come here, he chose us to come here, but he embraced our history. And I love that. Me, and I know other Jet fans do. He understands the suffering. He sees it. He's around it. He's seeing it more and more as he's starting to, get to be in the area.
Of course.
And, remember, he's coming from the #1 NFL successful franchise in history. When you add up NFL championships, the Green Bay Packers are the Green Bay Packers.
Of course.
That's it. So that's all he knew. He comes over to New York and he sees the Jet fans and he goes, man, look at these guys. They're hungry. And you know what? I think it feeds the beast. And I just love that he came out of the darkness and he wanted to be a New York football Jet. Let's go. Let's go.
We are talking to longtime NYFD firefighter and Jets fan, Edwin Fireman Ed Anzalone. Fireman Ed. Well, I'm going to call you Ed because everybody wants to say, "Oh, it's Fireman Ed." It's Ed. Ed, there was two things that I can go back with you. I love your personality. I love everything that you do for the Jets. You're the face of everything that you stand for. But in 2012, I was upset at you. Okay, because you went and you spoke to a bunch of newspapers or whoever you were speaking to, and you said, "I don't want to be a Jet fan anymore. I'm done watching the Jets. I'm done with them." Well, a lot of Jet fans were upset at you, my friend.
Well, no, I know, but you read what you want to read.
Yes, of course.
What I actually was quoted as saying, I said that I stepped away because, and the reason I stepped away was, understand something. I've been doing this since 1986, right? So now I'm in the stadium, and there was never any cameras, never video cameras, right? All of a sudden, and I'm talking about prevalent, started to be smartphones, right? In around 09, 10, that's where people started to really start to get them, all right? Now I'm in the Valley of the Beast. Hey, it's where I wanted to be. I always handled it. I never had a problem with it. The problem became, now they're videoing you, that, whoever it, you don't know who it is. These guys are double fisting. And they got their buddies over there. Well, it's the truth. But it always was like that. It's not like it just started. It was always like that. And I'm okay with that because that's part of the fabric of football. I love it. I don't have any problem with it. As long as you act correctly, right?
Right.
So now they're going to film you. They're going to put mustard on you. To put ketchup. Listen, there was a lot of things that happened. Don't believe believe nothing. Believe half of what you see and nothing you hear, because it's all bullshit. It just is. Listen, there was a lot of things that went on.
Of course.
And, family comes first. And it was affecting my family.
Of course.
And I'm not going to get into the things that actually led to it, but it sure as hell wasn't the New England game. That just happened to be the last. I
Last
just was
straw.
done.
Yeah.
Because there was other things that happened long before that,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't walk out of there in handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have a responsibility to these little kids, and there's a lot of handicapped people. There's a lot of great people in the stadium.
Right.
And I always felt like I represented myself, but also being, leading the chant, there's a responsibility there. So it got a little crazy and I never quit.
Mm-hmm.
I stepped away, but what I did was I was still in the stadium. In fact, they used to, if you really want to, you can see the footage. They because now they're filming me. So they're filming me every game, and I'm up on the box with my buddy, and he's a lawyer, and then I'm all over the place. I was at every game. I was every game. That was the end of the year. There was only 2 games left. All right. Then I was at the games in 13 and 14, but I was, incognito, doing my thing.
I got it.
And, I was trying to figure it out. I was like, it's a whole new era in my life. You got to remember, I'm like 55 years old at that point. And I'm going, Jesus. I says, what is happening here? What are we doing? And, you got to, a lot of things led to it. And then for me to go back, a lot of things led for me to go back in those years. It wasn't as simple as, I'm back. It didn't work like that. So, I was fortunate when I did actually come back, and really it was just a freak thing. The Buffalo game, I think it was 15.
It was 15, yep.
It was Thursday night. And it was a whim. I didn't even have my helmet. Anybody that's really paying attention will know the facts, because I don't bullshit. I tell it like it is. That's what I said to you. I don't hide from anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way it is. It's real. Just be real.
Mm-hmm.
And I was. Now, everybody doesn't like it. That's okay. They don't live in my shoes. What should happen, anybody that doesn't like it and believes in bullshit, go lead 80,000. Go do it. Go do it. That's all I can tell you. Go do it. And
I don't think nobody wants that job.
You know what? I'm honored. Anyway, listen, it all worked out. The Thursday night I went, and the place went nuts.
Mm-hmm.
The place went crazy. And then they had petitions for me to come back, and it just worked out. I moved my seats over closer towards the bench, a little more security, a little more,
Are the Jets helping you out with that? Are they giving you
well, the security absolutely is helped out, but I pay for my seats.
I got you.
My seats.
I've
always paid for my seats.
Mm-hmm.
And, and so, we worked it out as far as, I don't need guys, pouring beer on me, and you know what I mean? That can't happen. You know what I'm saying? So in life, that's just crazy. But there are nutty guys, man. Now, I don't like to talk about them because there's 99.9% of the people are wonderful. They're tremendous.
Yeah.
The people are wonderful. I'm honored. I'm blessed that I could be with, all the fans, because it's wonderful. The kids, there's a lot of people that are handicapped, that I love these people, man. They love the Jets just like we all do. The women, the little girls. There's so many different families that just love the Jets.
It must be
And it's
nice when
wonderful.
Aaron Rodgers at his press conference, the first 2 questions and for the first 2 answers, he mentioned you, Fireman Ed. So that says a lot about who you are for the New York Jets and how much Aaron Rodgers respects the Jet fans.
Well, I'll tell you, I was blessed. I was down in Florida and I watched the press conference like we all did. And, of course, you're blown away, right? I mean, you're a human being. You're like, wow. But, I was fortunate. I was in Green Bay. We happened to play them last year.
Mm-hmm.
And in his words, we smoked them. And
right.
There was 20,000 Jet fans there. The Jet fans showed up in Green Bay in force. So at the end of the game, I was down by the bench, behind a Jet bench, and the fans come down, and we rocked the house. We gave him probably a 10 chance, and he heard it. He had to hear it. It was so loud, and he obviously heard it because he mentioned it in the press conference. So, listen, I'm jacked that we got Aaron Rodgers. Honestly, I didn't think we were going to get him. I really didn't. I thought Derek Carr was going to be the guy, and that was the way I thought they were going to go, because I did think the compensation was going to be way too much for Rodgers. And remember, Derek Carr was a free agent. It didn't cost anything.
Right.
So I thought that was the route they were going, but they were determined to get Rodgers. And listen, guys, in another year, in everything, life is timing.
Yes.
In a different year, we would have had 6-8 teams in the AFC trying to get him. 6 or 8 teams. Only because of different things that happened with the other teams. The Titans would have been in on him, but they got shambles in their ownership.
Of course.
The Raiders are in disarray. They hate McDaniels, so that would have been another one, right? The Colts aren't good enough that he ain't going there, all right? You start going down the list. The Dolphins, they believe in Tua. God bless them.
Yeah.
And, listen, the Patriots are with Mac Jones. Right? I mean, you just keep going on and
Macaroni
on.
Jones, we call him. Macaroni Jones.
Yeah, well, listen, that guy is a dirty player. He's a dirty player. He just is.
He's from Alabama. Of course he is.
These guys in the NFL, let me tell you something. These guys in the NFL, they do a lot of talking in those locker rooms. Don't you believe when he's coming up sliding, he's coming up kicking guys, all right? And you seen what he did to that linebacker in Carolina, right? I mean, come on, man. There's a lot of things. There's 3-4 things he's done. It wasn't one. So Mac Jones will get his. Believe me. I hope we're the team that does it.
Speaking of nutty players, Chad Ochocinco, when he in a game, I think it was in 2009, he scored a touchdown against the Jets and mocked your celebration. There was a whole story after that. So go through that story, that whole incident.
It was funny because he said before the game, we were playing for the playoffs. If you remember, that was cold. It was one of the coldest nights. That was one of the coldest nights I ever was at a game. Anyway, he was saying that he was going to have a Cincinnati Bengal helmet. He was going to go on a goalpost and he was going to do the Bengal chant. That was if you read all about it. Anyway, obviously we crushed them. I think we shut them out 31-0 or 33-0. It was something like that. And the place was wild. So he actually called me. I was actually hanging Christmas lights. And I was on a roof, and I get a call from a 305 area code. And he got my number, and he called me, and he actually invited me out to Cincinnati for the game.
Wow.
He said to me, everything, all expenses on me. He goes, you know what? I didn't give you a good performance like I said I would. He goes, and, you do a hell of a job. He goes, I want to invite you and your family out, top of the line. And I said, that's awesome that you even called me, and I appreciate it. I said, but I'd be a horse's ass if I took you up on it. I said, if the Jets did it, it'd be different. I said, I can't take it from another team. So, I thanked them. And anyway, we were on Showtime that week and the whole bit.
I remember that.
It was a good time. A lot of fun. I mean, you're blessed. These guys, listen, I'm blessed that I'm able to rock 80,000 people, right? So the players, you have the players. I've talked to different players through the years, and they respect you, and so you're honored, But most of all, fellas, it's never about me. I want the Jet fans I want to win. I want to win.
I'm a Jet fan. Okay,
we're doing this all. I love it.
I'm a Jet fan,
and I hope you forgive me. You were mad at me, and I get.
Listen, I didn't know the whole story. I heard.
Yeah, there's a lot more circumstances that went on, Errol, than we're even in the press. And some things you can't even talk about. Like there's things you can't talk about. All right, because then it becomes sensationalism.
Of course.
Then you become a drama queen, and I'm not doing that. So all I did was bit the bullet, and I said, okay, and really when I left, I thought that would be it. I really did think that would be it. I was going to go to the games, despite I was still going to the games. Whether I was Fireman Ed or not, I was going to the games. I want to see a world championship.
You were
That's the
just
bottom
Ed.
line.
You were just Ed.
And yeah, hey, listen, that's fine. But I was fortunate enough. The fans listen to me, so I'm blessed. And I'm honored. And I'm going to give them everything I have this year. I can tell you that.
Well,
everything I have. I give it to them every.
I'm very
try my best.
excited. You have to be very excited if you're a Jet fan. Sauce guarantees a playoff run. I mean, you're hearing him. Garrett Wilson is just excited beyond excited. I mean, you look at the big picture and in the position where the Jets are at now with a quarterback, with a defense, now even with an offensive line. Everybody was complaining that they didn't get an offensive lineman because the Patriots screwed them. The Patriots didn't screw them because Joe Douglas predicted that the Patriots were going to trade with Pittsburgh and move up a 14. So he knew it was going to happen, and he knew where he was going. So all the Jet fans out there, every single Jet fan, I will say it again, Will McDonald was his pick. That's who he wanted. For anybody to think that he didn't want Will McDonald and he was just throwing a curveball and it just stuck, he wanted Will McDonald. And if Will McDonald turns out to be anywhere close to the player they think he could be, an 8 or 9 sack a year type of player, the Jets absolutely had a home run with the center that they got. I believe they really position themselves for the next couple of years. And if next year that cap hit is going to kill them because it's the whole Aaron Rodgers cap hit. So they have to decide on who they're going to
renegotiate that.
I'm sorry?
They're renegotiating that. That's
yes.
What I'm hearing, and I'm not going to start giving breaking news. All I know is that what I'm hearing is that he's going to make this thing. He wants to win, and he's made his money. He's going to give plenty of room so the Jets can keep operating. And don't be surprised if you see Aaron Rodgers here for not 2 years, but 3 years.
Wow,
I can see him going 2 with a option for a 3rd year. Do not be surprised if Aaron Rodgers is here 3 years.
Look at that. You're hearing
right? So don't
Fireman Ed, the inside sports.
No, I don't know. I don't know anything. I'm just telling you, I think you're going to see Aaron Rodgers here. It all depends on the success of the Jets. That all plays into it. If we win a world championship, who knows? Let's hope we're on this show and we're talking about that we won the world championship.
How about this? Why don't we get you back on the show after the first week of the season?
You guys want me? I'll come back.
I would love to get you on. I would love to know.
Especially when I'm going to talk to a fellow Jet fan.
What can I say? I mean, Speedy right there, he's a Giant fan, and he's worried. He doesn't really like what his Giants did this offseason.
Very neutral offseason. They're going to be about the same.
The Giants got a nice team. They got, really the bottom line. And listen, I don't really talk about the Giants. All I will say is that I'm not into these running quarterbacks. Like when I see Josh Allen running, I mean, I just cannot believe that they actually have these designer sweeps for these guys. Like they're off the wall. These guys are off the wall. Like, what are you doing? Like I go crazy when I see that. I'm like, listen, just tell me what quarterback has won that's done that? Which one? Who won? Who's won? Anybody?
What?
Don't say Patrick Mahomes because Mahomes, they stopped them from doing it.
Russell
Wilson would probably be the only one. Or Steve McNair. He was.
Well, he didn't win a Super Bowl though.
No, but he went to the Super Bowl. Yeah. So are you talking about winning Super Bowl?
Russell Wilson. No, listen, guys running the ball. It's different when you ad lib. I'm not talking about that.
Right.
When you ad lib from the pocket, that's fine. I'm talking about these guys are RPOs, run pass option. These guys are actually designer runs. You got to be kidding me. Like, this is the NFL. Not for long. You keep doing that. Not for long.
Flag football.
Listen, it don't bother me because it ain't my quarterback. No, but it's not my quarterback. Right. Daniel Jones has already hurt his neck. And I'm shocked they're running him. Like, what are you doing? But hey, that's the Giant problem. You guys won 4 Super Bowls. I'm not worried about you. You've had plenty of success. Plenty of success. And my family, I got a lot of Giant fans that are in my family. Plenty of success. I don't want to hear it. I don't care. We've gone 5 decades. I don't want to hear anything from a Giant fan because you've had tons of success. It's over. It's our turn. We get a turn. We're around the merry-go-round. We want an effing turn. We want a turn. That's that.
All right, Ed, before we let you go, let's hear the chant, baby. Let's hear the chant. You drink that water, baby. I want to hear it before we let you go.
Always. Oh, Jets, Jets. Let's go. Hey, Pete, you're a good guy. I got plenty of Giant fans, family members that are Giant fans. Listen, nothing but love, brother. Nothing but love.
Just so you know, me and Brandon Jacobs have a bet. And that if the Jets have a better record than the Giants when they play week 8, he has to take me and Speedy and his son to dinner and to the Giant and Jet game. And if I lose, if the Giants have a better record than the Jets, week 8, I have to take Speedy, Brandon Jacobs, and his son out to dinner and out to the Giants and Jet game. So it'll be fun.
And I'll tell you this as well. I also have a couple of family members that are Jets fans as well. So I never actually had any ill will towards the Jets. A lot of Giants fans hate the Jets too. And I also grew up in Connecticut where I was in Southern Connecticut, so it was more Patriots country, but mixed with Giants fans. So I always grew up not liking the Patriots either. So I'm sure all Jets fans could support that as well.
Yes.
Listen, the Jets and Giants, there's people that don't have any ill will. Being Fireman Ed, I see plenty of ill will from the Giant fans. So
there's a lot of them.
I've been dealing with the Giant fans since I'm a long, long time. Okay. And I watched you go to 5 Super Bowls, win 4 of them. Okay, in the same stadium, so I know all about it. It just makes me stronger. It makes me harder, and I can't wait till it's our day in the sun, because it's coming. It's coming, and you're not gonna be happy. Most of them ain't gonna be happy, but it's coming. Sorry,
Ed. Thank you for calling, my friend.
All the best.
Fireman Ed. Fantastic. He really is. Great personality. That's what I love. That's what I love about all the different people we interview, even the fans. We have how many fans call the show and they attack us. They hate us. They love us, whatever. Ed is the biggest Jet fan. He is the guy. He is the voice of the New York Jet fan. So for him to come on the show, and he's been all over. He was on the Pat McAfee show. He has been all over speaking about the New York Jets. I have nothing but the utmost respect for him. He did settle the stuff that happened in 2012. I heard different stories, but he tells me it's not true. So I believe him. I believe him. And it's true. In 2009, the social media started to really explode. Facebook, Instagram just came out. There was no TikTok. There was none. No Snapchat. None of that. It was Facebook and then Instagram. Those were the social medias that came out and just dominated. MySpace was already out. MySpace came out in 2000. It was like the biggest one. I know John Daigle had a MySpace. There's no question that he did. But when we come back, it won't be Fireman Ed anymore. It will be our friend 5 times, not 4, but now 5 times on the Sports Loudmouths. We will be talking to 4 for 4 Fantasy Football, BetSperts Fantasy Football, and Handicapping analyst, Mr. Daigle. He is now going to be back on the show when we come back here on the Sports Loudmouths.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing. I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is the Sports Loudmouths.
631-672-3108 is the number to call. You are listening to the Sports Loudmouths. I am Errol. That is Speedy. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week. They are live. They are not podcasts. But if you want to hear us as a podcast, go to Apple Podcasts. Almost 1.6 million downloads. But go check us out. Worldwide Sports Radio Network, the Sports Loudmouths. We are live here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network every single Wednesdays. It's not Wednesday tonight. It is Tuesday. But, me and Speedy have something going on Wednesday, but we will be back on Thursday. So Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and Thursdays at 9 p.m. And now he's been waiting and he's been cheering as he is not a Jet fan. He's in Chicago. He's hanging out. I don't think he's a Chicago Bears fan, but that's a whole nother story. We are now talking to 4for4 Fantasy Football and BetSperts Fantasy Football Handicapping Analyst, John Daigle. Johnny, what's up, man?
You mentioned my 5th appearance, but honestly, with all the scheduling snafus we've had so far this offseason, all on me, by the way, it should have been 8 times by now. So first off, apologies to both of you, but just know we will always get it sorted. I will always continue to try and make the time for the Sports Loudmouths.
We love you, okay? And Speedy always makes sure. He says, who do you want on? I said, get me some sports football analysts. He said, get me whoever. John Daigle, yeah, get Johnny on. Let's talk to John. Let's hear what he has to say about the draft and fantasy sports. And he says, you sure? Yeah, this is like the 5th time. I say, he can come on 8 or 9 times. I don't care. As long as he gives us good information, and you always do, we're happy to have you on. By the way, how is Chicago? I know you've been there for a little while. You still have the same girl, right? I hope so. How's everything going over there?
Everything is going well, having a great time. I actually just got back from Memphis over the holiday weekend, which does have some fun in it. It's slightly smaller than you would think, especially being only 3 hours from Nashville, but still living in Chicago. It's still beautiful. It's 75 and sunny out right now. So we are now in that stretch of 3 months where we get gratification from the 9 months of hell we have to live through.
I don't know about hell. We haven't seen a lot of snow, especially here in New York. We have not seen enough snow here. I think we've had one snowstorm, one bad one, in almost 2.5 years. It's been horrible. And I love the winter. I don't know about you. I know you don't like the winter, but I'm a winter fan. I actually go out in shorts. I go out in a tank top. I go out in flip-flops. I am snow blowing in my flip-flops. So for all you people that think I'm crazy, ask Speedy. I actually go out and snow blow in my flip-flops, my shorts, and my tank top. So snow doesn't bother me.
I think we all eventually settle into becoming one of 2 different type of people. And it is the one that leans all the way in to how we were raised and where we were raised, that kind of lifestyle, or the person who runs away and finds the exact opposite kind of environment to live in. And so coming from Texas, yes, I absolutely hate 105-degree summers. I never want to go back. And so I deal with the 5-10-degree winters because that seems like nothing to me. So I agree with you. I actually prefer winter.
Well, I just don't like the sweat, okay? I just hate it.
And those New York summers, I'll be there in August, by the way. I have a
we gotta get together.
We should.
Yes.
Kyle has my number. We can all reach out together. But I'm there for a draft at the end of August, downtown, and so gladly we can grab drinks. But I'm just hoping y'all keep the heat away from me because I'm not ready for it.
How about this? Well, I'll take you out to dinner, okay? Because you're coming here. And when we come out to Chicago, you can take us out to dinner. But when you come out here, it's on me. Drinks and dinner. I don't really drink. Speedy does. He loves his beer. He loves his different breweries. So we'll go to one of his favorite breweries over there. And we'll eat some dinner and we'll sit down and we'll talk sports and we'll talk about everything that's going on in football. So why don't we get into it? Because the draft just went by. So much to get into. I mean, everybody was rating and giving statistics on where some of these players are going to go. In your opinion, honest opinion, who do you think this year won the 2023 draft?
The best draft, I would argue, was the Philadelphia Eagles. And a lot of it was them just sitting by and letting the rest of the league screw up. And there are quite a few teams, the Jets included. I gave 6 different teams an A grade. The Jets were one of them. But for the Eagles, it was just the fact that they could trade up for Jalen Carter, who we understand all has off the field issues, but arguably before the court case he'll likely have to go through in the next couple of months, was the number 1 or number 2 overall pick, pending what was going to happen at quarterback in that situation. And so the fact that he was just there and they could trade up for him then made life easier on them, because he has a situation to grow around now, given that I believe they finished with 6-7 different players now on defense from Georgia. So he at least has his friends to grow up in the correct culture with. Not only that, but Nolan Smith is one of the most, albeit smallest, athletic edges in combine history, just for running a 4.28 40, who, by the way, when I was in Indy scouting these prospects, he, the night before, was out St. Elmo's Steakhouse at the table directly next to me. And so I know for a fact that 4.28 40 was run on a 40-ounce porterhouse, and he clearly crushed it the morning after. But the fact that he just fell to number 30, and they needed edge rushers, in particular with Brandon Graham on the final year of his contract coming up, all they did was continue to build intelligently and successfully, not to mention trading for DeAndre Swift. Some people may see it as they are going to feature DeAndre Swift, and maybe that is the case, maybe it's not. But remember, if they don't re-sign DeAndre Swift, they still get a compensatory pick for him next year. And so it was the fact that they basically gave up nothing to get back that same amount in return. And so it's just how you build. And that's why Howie Roseman continues running circles around the rest of the league. So in my opinion, yes, the Eagles were an A+.
Well, they're not the Eagles. They're the Philadelphia Bulldogs. Okay?
They are, yes.
Let's just throw the curve right there. They are the Philadelphia Bulldogs, a.k.a. I guess you could say Oklahoma, a.k.a. Alabama quarterback Jalen Hurts, whatever you want to call him. But it is all Bulldogs. That's all we're going to say.
How about this nickname? The Georgia-Delphia Eagle Dogs.
Eagle Dogs.
So I want to go to your Chicago Bears. They had a draft that a lot of people were questioning Darnell Wright early on, and then some other picks on day 2 and day 3. I actually liked a lot of them. I like this corner, Tyreek Stevenson. I like Jervon Dexter. Definitely a big help on defense. And Darnell Wright, I do think will be a good player. What did you think about them?
Oh, I'm a very big Darnell Wright fan. So for one, take into account that they obviously had the number 1 overall pick and they traded for basically the number 9 and DJ Moore. They got a couple other options there. But the fact that DJ Moore profiled as the best wide receiver in this class, in a weak wide receiver class. Like, I like some of these guys for fantasy football, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jordan Addison in particular, but they're not DJ Moore. And so for DJ Moore being 26 this year, the Bears won that trade outright. But then also to get the most athletic offensive lineman in this entire class, as you mentioned, Speedy, and Darnell Wright, who was considered a bust basically until his final year. Then he slimmed down, added mass, came back as a right tackle at Tennessee. And then that's what actually stood out to everyone. Just the fact that he handled in his final year some of these prospects that were drafted in the first few rounds. Will Anderson, for instance, if you watch the tape on Darnell Wright, he actually handled them quite well when they played against each other in their final years together. B.J. Ojulari as well. And so I thought the Bears built out quite well, honestly, just with the trade and the fact that they prioritized athletic linemen to get upfield for Justin Fields. It's like Nate Davis is quietly who's going to be their starting right guard, I believe, this year. Maybe left guard, most likely right guard. He's actually one of the most athletic guards in the entire league. And so the fact that you can get someone who can get to the second level and block for Justin Fields as he's scrambling the ball, those are the kind of players the Bears should start prioritizing. And they did that with Darnell Wright. So yeah, I actually loved Chicago's class this year.
We are talking to 4for4 Fantasy Football and BetSperts Fantasy Football and Handicapping analyst, John Daigle. John, you said you graded the Jets an A, and we were just speaking to Fireman Ed. What stood out in this year's draft? Obviously, at number 15, everybody was questioning the Jets pick at Will McDonald. Then you watch Flight 23 on YouTube, and Joe Douglas pretty much said that he believes before the draft even started, before the first round started, he said, I wouldn't be surprised if Pittsburgh moves up at 14 with the Patriots and get that Broderick. So as soon as Broderick Jones. So when you look at that, and then they went after Will McDonald, who was their guy. When you watch Flight 23, that was their guy. They all voted. He was their guy. Were you surprised Will McDonald went 15 and as low as he did? And do you think Will McDonald and this class could really show up like last year's class?
First of all, not so humble brag to me. I did finish with the nation's most accurate mock draft.
Really?
And I actually had, on top of that, though, I had Broderick Jones, the Jets. But as you mentioned, they got sniped. They were going to go that direction for sure, but then they got sniped. But to then fall back into a player like Will McDonald, who's just someone who was scouted since high school because he's been basically the best athlete on the field on any time he's played against other football players. So the fact that they fell back into adding more edge rushing presence with him in the first round instead at number 15 overall, but then also added with their next couple of picks, center Joe Tippmann, who I actually think will start as early as this year. And then offensive tackle Carter Warren projects as more of a right tackle. Either way, Dane Brugler at the Athletic had him as a top 100 prospect that just happened to fall to the 4th round. So in my opinion, regardless of the rest of their class, their first 3 picks, I do believe they got right and tremendous immediate impact players. And so just the fact that they are setting up Aaron Rodgers to have success is why I gave them an A. I have no idea what the hell is going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. He's the one player you can't quantify the amount of spite that he has that could carry him into a successful season. Like last year was an immense drop-off from everything. From touchdown rate, it was a career low in fantasy points per game, 14.4, which were over 3 points less than his previous career low mark. And so if he were to bounce back, it wouldn't be shocking at all, given that it's just finally a fresh start with a better surrounding cast. But what will happen ultimately, I'm not sure. It's something we're all clearly very excited to watch out, Fireman Ed included.
He's definitely he's going crazy. Even off air, he is a personality. He deserves a lot of credit for who he is and what he does. So I love what he had to say today, and it really shows you that the Jets have the right guy, chanting and pushing the fans for what they want, and that's just being a fan of the New York Jets, and I am a fan. So I love what they're doing, and I love what Fireman Ed had to say.
So the other trend that rebirthed in this draft was the running backs going early. Bijan Robinson, number 8 to Atlanta, and then Jahmyr Gibbs going to the Lions, number 12, before they traded Swift. So are you surprised that trend kind of rebirthed after it was gone for a while since Saquon Barkley, really? And also from a fantasy perspective, are you seeing like a Bijan Robinson first round grade on him like you saw with Saquon and Trent Richardson and a couple other guys?
Let's start with Bijan because I predicted that one and I wasn't shocked at all. I felt like that was good for the last 3 months of the draft. It just seemed after finishing second in running back carries per game, only behind the Cowboys, that was the direction the Falcons were going to go. Also added Matthew Bergeron on the offensive line to go along with Caleb McGarry and Chris Lindstrom, bringing those players back on long-term deals and fortifying what finished as the highest run play rate under Arthur Smith in the league last year from neutral game strip. That's what they want to do. That's what they do best. Not only that, but if you look at Bijan's box scores on the surface, I understand receiving anyways doesn't pop too much, but still he's quietly averaged the 4th most red zone targets among all running backs since 2021 in the nation. So when it matters most, teams and coaches like Steve Sarkisian did most likely will just feed him. And so I think that's what's going to happen. To answer your question, Speedy, have Bijan Robinson ranked as my RB3 overall. Right now in Underdog, he's going as the RB2 around the 7th pick. And I know that may seem rich, but just given the dream scenario, as I mentioned earlier, this offense and how they scheme plays that he falls into, it is genuinely the perfect situation for him as a rookie. And that's why he should unanimously be a top 5 player and my number 3 running back right behind Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler. For Jahmyr Gibbs, though, I thought it was quite shocking because on one hand, it was poor team building. Like, just step back and think that they gave Dave Montgomery a 3-year, $18 million contract, and they gave David Montgomery more money than Jamal Williams, who just recorded 1,000 yards and a league-high 17 rushing touchdowns for them, than Williams received with the Saints. And so they already wanted Montgomery. But then to pay that money and then to sink the number 12 overall pick into Jahmyr Gibbs just seems ludicrous. And so I would imagine they have a plan for him. Right now, I have him projected for the 4th most catches among all running backs in the league, right behind Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, and Ramondre Stevenson. But beyond that, besides being poor team building, it's just the fact that, yes, he has to get there through touchdowns as primarily a receiving back. And so it makes me a little bit skeptical in year one, given that David Montgomery is the kind of dirty grinder guy that does have 4 consecutive seasons of 1,000+ yards from scrimmage that will probably lead the team in touches over Gibbs.
As everybody knows, we are talking to 4for4 Fantasy Football and BetSperts Fantasy Football and Handicapping analyst, John Daigle. You know, John, you were just mentioning the Lions, and I think the Lions had a great draft. I would give them a B+, A-. They had a fantastic draft. A lot of people were questioning their number 18th pick and Jack Campbell at number 18. They could have got anybody, but there was still a lot of good players on the board, even linebackers on the board. Like you said, Nolan Smith, he could have been a guy that they could have added to that lineup. To me, I was questioning Jack Campbell, but everybody else after that, Sam Laporta going in the second round. I love that. Brian Branch, who I wanted the Jets to get. He's probably the best safety in the draft. What were your thoughts all around of the Lions draft?
Although thought they basically recorded organizational malpractice by giving these, as I mentioned, 3-year, $18 million deals, not only to David Montgomery, that's also what they paid Alex Anzalone on the open market at inside linebacker, and then again spent their second first-round pick on the same position, running on a treadmill, in Jack Campbell, although I do like Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell actually finished with Pro Football Focus's highest coverage grade among all linebackers. So he's definitely a sideline-to-sideline grinder kind of guy. But at the same time, to just overlap those signings seemed really odd. Having said that, I, in my dynasty rankings, already had Sam Laporta as the number 2 tight end ahead of Michael Mayer. And I, again, have him at that, at this position. And then, as you mentioned, Brian Branch, who's more of a nickel player, right? A majority of his snaps came from the slot. And then Hendon Hooker, who we don't know where we're going to get out of, coming off an ACL injury, going to be 25 this year in a gimmicky Tennessee offense. It remains to be seen how quickly he can develop. But at least they have that younger player that could potentially be the bridge option from Jared Goff. So from a player standpoint, I agree with you. I thought they did really well to get 5 impactful players in the first 2 days. But overall, from like how to build a team, I thought that was poor. So we'll see how the players pan out.
Is there any landing spot that you liked among these wide receivers or running backs that you think maybe could be a really good destination from a fantasy perspective?
Among the wide receivers, you said?
Yes. Wide receivers or running backs that are maybe like sleepers type thing?
A couple. I am a big Zach Charbonnet fan for the Seahawks. As much as we all love Kenneth Walker as basically a freight train. Once Rashad Penny went down, Kenneth Walker averaged 18.1 carries per game. They rode him until the very end. But at the same time, he was a very boomer bust player who only got there due to those touches. Unable to earn targets with only 2.5 per game. And then also, think about how many running backs in the league last year, backups, third stringers included, had at least 25 carries. And if you take all those running backs who had at least 25 carries in the league last year, Kenneth Walker had the 10th highest rate of getting tackled at or behind the line of scrimmage. Wow. He basically either runs into the center's ass or explodes for a 40-yard run. That's the kind of player he is. And that's okay. But when you can't earn targets and now you enter Zach Charbonnet, who was a workhorse last year at UCLA under Chip Kelly, Charbonnet actually averaged more receptions per game than Jahmyr Gibbs, who's being touted as the best receiving back in this class, 4.1 to Jahmyr Gibbs' 3.6. And so I immediately think Charbonnet has the receiving back role on 3rd and 4th down. And just being there and hurry up options, he could then steal carries from Walker, which is bad news for Ken Walker, especially in half PPR and standard leagues. So I think Charbonnet is actually one of the quietest sleepers of the entire class.
That's so interesting. And I loved Kenneth Walker, and he was up for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And if Breece Hall didn't get hurt, he probably would have won it. I really do believe it.
Remember, Charbonnet was a 5-star prospect under Jim Harbaugh. He was actually Harbaugh's highest ranked offense recruit that year, and led the team in rushing Michigan as a true freshman. But then once he got thrown to a committee for no good reason under Harbaugh as a sophomore, that's when he then left to play under Chip Kelly. So it's not because he left because he was doing poor. He was doing amazing. He's a superstar player.
Wow. Interesting. Very, very interesting. We are talking to 4for4 Fantasy Football and BetSperts Fantasy Football and Handicapping analyst, John Daigle. John, the New York Giants, there's a lot going on with this organization. I actually called WFAN the other day. I attacked one of their broadcasters because he was telling me, or telling all the fans out there, that Darren Waller is one of the best tight end wide receivers in the league when healthy. And I said, yeah, 3 years ago. He hasn't been that 3 years. So for you to say that was stupid. And then trying to compare, Daniel Jones to Aaron Rodgers, which is absolutely ridiculous. Even this year, trying to compare him this year, it was a ridiculous statement. But the one thing that I really did not like is him practically throwing Saquon Barkley. He's not even throwing him a bone. He's throwing him down the drain. He pretty much said, you know what? We can go without Saquon Barkley. He averaged what, 76 or 75% of the offense for the New York Giants. He was one of the only reasons why the Giants made the playoffs last year. And then all the Giant fans saying, oh, we don't need him. We don't need him. We got Darren Waller. Are they out of their minds?
On one hand, to your point, Waller has missed 15 games the past 2 years. So that's a big issue. Health is certainly a concern. On the other hand, I do want to throw out last year. And maybe that's a mistake I'm making for fantasy, but think back, 2019 to 2021, away from Devontae Adams, Darren Waller commanded a 25% target share, was a ceiling player despite being often injured. Last year, sunk to a 16% target share behind Devontae Adams. Not only that, basically didn't produce because he had the highest depth of target among all tight ends. His average depth of target was 14.5 yards downfield from Derek Carr, who is a historically poor deep thrower. And so Waller's basically being asked to always bring in inaccurate deep balls to get production. That's not fair to him. Whereas we saw the Giants, and under Brian Dable and Joe Shane, they'll change up their scheme weekly based on their opponent's defense, which is what every team should do. It's shocking the amount of offense that don't do that. And so I actually do think we're going to get Waller closer to the line of scrimmage and give him a higher floor and potential to lead the team in targets. But again, as you mentioned, it comes down to health, and that's something I can't project for. So I do think the role is safer and more exciting than what he experienced last year under Josh McDaniel, but the health is a major concern. At the same time, yes, Saquon Barkley is a player I'm bumping back for fantasy, just given his career high in carries last year and the fact that he led his own team in targets. As you mentioned, think about how many additions, even outside of Darren Waller, this team added. And now we're expecting Barkley to yet again lead the team in targets or finish as he did last year with the fourth highest rate of team targets among all running backs. It just can't happen. It won't happen, especially on a one-year deal. So yes, I agree. I'm getting off Barkley this year as closer to an RB6 and RB7 as opposed to the RB4 at the end of the first round he's being drafted as right now.
Interesting.
So we just saw on Friday, DeAndre Hopkins was released by the Arizona Cardinals, and we've heard that the Bills and the Chiefs right now are the two favorites to sign him. So both for fantasy and for real football, where do you think is the best landing spot for him?
It has to be the Chiefs, just given on what they have around him. I know everyone wants Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore to be a thing, but remember, when these two players are injured and they had an opportunity to play in place of each other in the slot last year, the Chiefs were still leaning on Justin Watson and a handful of others to play over Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore, both who never led their own team in routes run, whereas Justin Watson did that constantly, who they re-signed this year, by the way. So I'm not too high on either of those players, which is why I think DeAndre Hopkins would slide right in and fit immaculately in that offense. Also, just the fact that last year, remember, like Kyler Murray only threw 30 passes with both Marquise Brown and DeAndre Hopkins in the field. Like, we never got to see that offense as a whole. And so now the fact that Hopkins can just show up to Kansas City and be the number one wide receiver around Travis Kelce, who will be 34 this year, who did score only the eighth time since 2008 a tight end averaged over 15 points per game. It was an historical outlier season, which is also why, although I like Travis Kelce as a top 5 pick, I also don't mind fading him at that cost, thinking that if the historical outlier performance scales back, regresses just a hair, and the rest of the tight ends, because tight end 2 through 12 averaged fewer than 9 points per game for the first time since 2008, if those tight ends then elevate themselves naturally, that means that Kelce isn't separating himself from the field as he did last year. And so that's why Hopkins, in my opinion, for real life fits in well. And also for fantasy, Hopkins would then take away from Kelsey and allow us to draft the Darren Wallers, T.J. Hawkinsons of the world that could even out Kelsey's performance.
Mark Andrews is a guy that I really, really like. Every single year I draft him. Every single year I usually draft him in the second and third round. Sometimes he falls to the third round, and I scoop him right up. But he can't stay healthy. This year they have Odell Beckham. They have more weapons around him. So this could be a big year for a guy like Mark Andrews. What do you see Mark Andrews doing this year? Do you think he's a guy that you can look towards the second round and bringing him in? I think he's the second best tight end in all of the NFL.
I agree with you that I think Mark Andrews is the tight end 2 in fantasy this year. He did average just, quote unquote, just 10.3 points per game, which were a far cry from his career high 14.6 just 2 years ago in 2021. But at the same time, he only played 11 games with Lamar Jackson. And in those 11 games, he still averaged 11.8 points, which were the second most, only behind Travis Kelce. And so the fact that he still recorded that 24.5% target share from Lamar Jackson, and more importantly, when Tyler Huntley went under center, Andrews' target share bumped up to 28.5%. Either way, I expect Andrews to still lead this team in targets. For as much nostalgia as we have for Odell Beckham, it's still basically been 2 full years since we've seen him play football. And even then, he relied on end zone targets in a Sean McVay offense. It's not the same thing at all this year. And so, yes, I do believe Andrews leads this team in targets. And I'm with you. I believe he is the tight end 2 right now.
So a running back and a wide receiver that scored a lot last year that you're more down on this year than usual.
Ooh, that scored a lot. I already mentioned Saquon Barkley. Travis Etienne is one I'm fading. How about that? I have him outside the top 12 running backs right now. And because he's proven that he can't earn targets in the NFL. Just to handle, without James Robinson from week 8 on, whenever they traded him last year, just to handle 85% of the team's backfield touches and finish from that point forward with the 11th most routes among all running backs. Etienne still recorded more than 3 targets in only 1 of those last 12 games and reached a double-digit target share in only 1 of those last 12 games. Doug Peterson has also come out this offseason and mentioned that JaMychal Hasty, not only JaMychal Hasty, but they signed Dearness Johnson and they drafted Tank Bigsby with important day 2 capital. Bigsby, by the way, who led his team in rushing Auburn and every season since 2020 and the SEC. Not only that as a workhorse, but he has a career 15.4% target share in college, which proves he can earn targets, which Etienne has proven he cannot. Thus, I think a lot of these important roles for fantasy, whether it's inside the 10-yard line or in the passing game, are getting stripped away because of Hasty and Bigsby. Thus, Etienne seems like a player who everyone's going to rank as a low-end RB1, and really he just can't get there because his opportunity and his ceiling is not there as perceived. And so he's one I'm really down on this year. The other one I think is quite obvious is Davante Adams, given that we don't understand what's going on with Jimmy Garoppolo's injury. And even then, Jimmy Garoppolo's rate of throws and completion rate 20 yards deep has been lower the last 3 years than Derek Carr's. And that's important because Davante Adams last year led the league in touchdowns and receiving yards on targets 20 yards deep. And so I question where his ceiling goes now with either Garoppolo or Brian Hoyer or Aiden O'Connell. It can't be good. So I think that's a player I'm bumping down to become a low-end tight end 1, despite being the only receiver last year to record at least 30% of his team's targets. Maybe that's a scheme thing under Josh McDaniels, but at the same time, we now all have to question if those targets are inaccurate and thus useless.
We are talking to 4for4 Fantasy Football and BetSperts Fantasy Football and Handicapping analyst, John Daigle. Last question for me, Justin Fields. This is a guy that needed weapons around him. He's been craving for weapons around him. He didn't throw the ball a lot. He used his legs a tremendous amount last year. He was an unbelievable second half fantasy guy. He was a guy that I picked up that practically took me all the way to the semifinals where half my team couldn't do anything. Justin Fields, he did what he can, but nobody else could do anything else. So where do you see Justin Fields this year? DJ Moore's there. There's more weapons around him and surrounding him. They're building an offensive line around him, something that they desperately need to do. Where do you see Justin Fields in fantasy? Where do you see him this year as a starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears?
I have him as my QB4 in fantasy. Wow. And if he were to enter the top 3, although that's a really hard gap to make with Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes, I don't think it'd be too shocking. First of all, the Bears naturally have to pass more. Last year's league low 21.9 pass attempts per game were literally the first time a team averaged less than 23 passes per game since the 1979 Chiefs. It just can't happen again. It was an historical outlier of epic proportions. Not to mention that, at least in terms of fantasy, without that passing volume and success, Justin Fields still got there. And not only that, Luke Getsy began learning as the season went along what makes Justin Fields great. Just 39% of his carries were design runs from the play caller, from Luke Getsy, through his first 6 starts. But then for the rest of the season, over his next 10 games, 65% of his runs were designed, and that's when he averaged a position-high 10.8 rushing points per game to go along with whatever he tacked on through the air. And so if we are expecting more passing volume logically, not to mention another year of this offense understanding how to use him for design runs, the sky's the limit for Justin Fields with extra pass catchers and better pass catchers, honestly, and DJ Moore and Roschon Johnson. So yes, I do like Justin Fields a lot this year.
All right, Lion, last question. Surprise team of the year and disappointment of the year.
Surprise team of the year, I think, will be the Dolphins. Right now, I have them. I don't know why I just said that on this show, but right now, I think they are serious contenders to win the AFC East at plus 300 odds at most sports books. Their roster, and again, I can't quantify Aaron Rodgers and the anger he has in his heart to look good again in a life without the Packers. Maybe this is just a stupid bet. But honestly, like this team, if you look at all advanced metrics through the air, ranked top 5 when Tua was healthy last year. Not only that, but to add so many impactful players, Bradley Chubb, Jalen Ramsey, the list goes on. Devin A-Chain, you asked about earlier, Speedy, about other sleeper running backs. Devin A-Chain is absolutely incredible, like literally an Olympic sprinter, basically 4.28 40, and just didn't get an opportunity because he played behind Isaiah Spiller through his first years in college. But then afterwards, averaged 23 touches per game in the SEC as a smaller back, and still had a top 4 rate of broken tackles in that last year. So I think he's just perfect for this Madden offense under Mike McDaniel, but just the top-heavy talent, assuming Tua stays healthy, is what makes them a sleeper team, in my opinion. So I do like the Dolphins, and then a team that scales back is probably the Lions. Just the fact that they're 12 carries on the 1-yard line, which they scored 11 touchdowns on. That's how Jamal Williams got all his fantasy points, was those touchdowns on the 1-yard line.
Don't get basically me about the Lions, please.
Basically just from Amon-Ra St. Brown slipping on the 1-yard line. That's all he did all season long. And screwed us
too.
And screwed us out of fantasy touchdowns. But basically those 12 touchdowns on the 1-yard line are how the Lions offense looks so potent despite missing the playoffs. And so I have to question, since that was the highest rate in the last decade, you have to question then, like, do they actually get that amount of opportunity on the 1-yard line again? And the answer is no. And so naturally, I think the offense scales back a little bit this year.
Well, Jamal Williams might have had, I don't know if this is an actual stat, he might have had the most bench points in fantasy football history last year.
For sure. Absolutely.
Oh, man. I hate the Lions. After what they did to the Jets, that honestly, it helped the Jets get Will McDonald because, hey, they wouldn't be at 13. Maybe they would trade that pick. Maybe they fall to 14. Who knows? But they still probably would have gotten Will McDonald. But nevertheless, I love the Will McDonald move. I'm going to be excited when he gets on the field. And he's about, because I know that if the Jets didn't draft him, he was going to the Cowboys because he went back and forth to the Cowboys facility at least twice. They loved him. And Micah Parsons and him on both sides of the edge, I mean, that would be havoc, those two guys, athletic guys, coming off the edge. So if you're a Jet fan, just relax. Will McDonald's going to be successful in the league, and Joe Douglas will put smiles on your faces moving forward. I think his draft was sensational this year as well. So, John, you're fantastic. Keep up the good work. We'll talk to you soon, as always.
Always a good time. I will see y'all at the end of August for food together.
Absolutely. On me, my friend. On me.
Can't wait.
John Daigle, as everybody knows, 4 for 4, football fantasy, BetSperts fantasy, football handicapping analyst. He's fantastic. But everything that he said, I agree with. And he gives you so much information. It's if you're a fantasy guy or you're a draft guy, you have to follow him. I mean, honestly, and you heard it in the nation. He had the number one nation draft.
Yep.
I mean, it's fantastic. It just tells you what this guy does, and he does it for a living. It's not like he sits there and he just talks, bull. He
was an award-winning fantasy football writer too. So.
100%. I mean, if you want to follow somebody, he's the guy to follow, and we'll definitely get up with him when he comes out here. You just keep in touch with him, find out when he's going to be out here.
Drinks with Daigle.
Yeah, well, you're going to drink. I'll watch
he is too. Well, he's drafting too. Drafts and
I'll
drinks
watch
with
you
Daigle.
drink.
We'll call it that.
I'll watch you guys drink. But
I don't know how much he'll drink. He said he has a draft. I'm assuming it's like an offline or one of those like bigger ceremonial drafts with the stuff he does. But,
yeah, fantasy drafts.
Yeah,
but it's cool. It's cool. He's been on a show the most, and every single time he comes on a show, he gives you so much information, and he doesn't disappoint. That's the best thing about it. And by the way, thank you to Fireman Ed. I know he's a busy guy. He was on Pat McAfee's show. He's on every single show, but I'm sure he had a lot of fun with us. I'm positive on it, and we will have him on again after the Buffalo game. I would love to get him on, and maybe we'll talk to him. Maybe we'll get him on every home game. Every time the Jets play a home game, we'll get him on and we'll talk Jets football with him. I think it'd be fun. And he's a great guy. He really is. He's down to earth, and he's a Jet guy. He is the Jet number one fan. I guess if you want to say that, I don't want to say that because I'm a Jet fan. But when I sit back and as an analyst, as a radio guy, I don't really, I can't really sit there and say I'm a Jet fan. I'm the biggest Jet fan because I got to be honest. I really do. I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, I'm a Jet fan for screw you," So I'm excited for this season. I question some things that could go on this offseason in the health situation, but if the Jets could stay fairly healthy going into the season, the Jets are positioned to absolutely win that division. I understand what Daigle said about Tua and if he stays healthy, what this team could do offensively and defensively, adding Jalen Ramsey. But I still question this team, and I question their coaching. Now, I know they bring in a top-end defensive coordinator, and I love what their rookie coach did last year. I really do. I really do. And as far as the last name, McDaniels, he's the best one. That's for sure.
Well, you just have to take the S away, and then you actually have a good coach. If you add the S on the end of the name, you have one that's running his team into the ground.
No, he's run that team in the ground. And why the hell would Tom Brady want to buy that team? Or invest into that team? That would be stupid. But
it's all part of a pyramid scheme that is eventually going to get him to play for the Raiders, and Jimmy G will get a stock
probably
in it once his foot gives out because he took an illegal surgery because he failed a physical.
I believe that. I really do. It doesn't make any sense.
Maybe he brought his trainer with him too, the one that everyone was criticizing him for having it with the Patriots.
So we got the Nuggets and the Heat going into the NBA championship. I'm excited. I really am. I think Denver's going to crush Miami. I don't think it's anything to even go into talking about until the series starts on Thursday. What I can say is this is the first time in a very long time Denver's playing in an NBA championship. And with Carmelo Anthony and Allen Iverson and Chauncey Billups, they couldn't get it done. Now, with a kid that they drafted in the second round, who arguably is the best player in the league for the last 3 or 4 years, should have won the MVP back-to-back years. I don't know what the NBA is thinking, giving it to Embiid, but you know what? Hey, he wants to complain, and he can't get into a Western or Eastern Conference Finals. Good for him. But this guy is sensational. He is a sensational player. You're going to see him on a national stage finally in an NBA championship where I think they're going to absolutely murder the Miami Heat. And I like Miami and what they've done. Caleb Martin, I love what they're doing. Jimmy Butler, they found players. Pat Riley is a genius. He really is. The guy knows how to win. But this team doesn't stand a chance. Murray, healthy. Porter Jr. being that third option, the fourth option, and they have a great bench. I just don't see it. Denver just trampled all over the West. They didn't just beat them. They trampled all over the West, which everybody still thinks the West is better than the East, which I think it's ridiculous. But that's really it with the NBA championship. We'll get into that a little bit later. The interesting story is the Golden Knights and the Florida Panthers. Okay. And the Golden Knights, before the season even started, they had a tremendous amount of injuries. Okay. And A lot of people questioning. I mean, they bring in a new coach, a guy that's won with the Boston Bruins, who's taken Boston to multiple Stanley Cup Finals. And I sit here and I look at what the Boston Bruins did with their new coach, and everybody, record breaking, and they get eliminated by the same team that's heading to the Stanley Cup Finals against their former coach. It's so interesting because if somehow the Florida Panthers knock off the Golden Knights, which I believe they will, okay, I think it'll go 7, but I do. I think the Florida Panthers, there's something about this team. Bobrovsky is been the best goalie in the playoffs. By the way, shout out to Las Vegas Hill. I mean, he's been sensational too. He's been as good as Bobrovsky, but this is a guy that, is a third string goalie, second string goalie. I mean, Bobrovsky has been one of the best goalies in the league for many, many years. And you can argue when he was on the Columbus Blue Jackets, he was the best goalie in the league. So I'm excited. Everybody says, oh, this is going to be a terrible Stanley. No, this is going to be fun. You're going to see a young Florida Panther team with arguably probably one of the fun players to watch right now in the playoffs in Matthew Tkachuk. I mean, honestly, I am not a Tkachuk fan. I'm not a Brady Tkachuk fan. I'm not a Keith Tkachuk fan. I'm not a big fan of the family. Okay. That's what I'm going to say. But I will say this. Keith Tkachuk was one of the greatest power forwards to play for the United States, arguably right behind Brett Hull. Okay. And Brett Hull, all right, is a Canadian. He really, he was both. He was neutral from the Canadian and United States team. The Canadian team didn't want him, so the United States took him and inherited him. Okay. So you want to say he's Canadian? He's Canadian. But Keith Tkachuk he really redefined the power forward position. And now when you watch his sons play the position, they're fantastic players. Both of them are fun to watch. One crazier than the other, there's no question. But Matthew Tkachuk has proven why you saw the Florida Panthers make that trade at the end of the season last year when people, including yours truly, questioned what they were thinking. So I'm excited. I really am. I think this is going 7 games, like I said, and it would be so fitting to watch the Florida Panthers eliminated the Boston Bruins new coach and then their old coach in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Speaking of old coaches, we also get the battle of Gerard Gallant's former 2 teams. Vegas Golden Knights versus the Florida Panthers. Meanwhile, he's unemployed and looking for a new job after getting fired by the Rangers. But yeah, this is interesting because there's physicality with the forwards for Florida and then the physicality for Vegas defensively too, and also their fourth line. And that's going to make it very tough. Like we've seen a lot of these pesky teams, these underdogs that go to the Stanley Cup Finals, play another team that's more of a finesse team that has physical guys only on the fourth line. But Vegas has it with both lines and Florida has it with really all their lines too. And both defenses have been very physical. Vegas, we knew their defensive depth was good coming in, but Florida's defense has been so good against teams' top lines. Like all these guys, all the Bruins top line, which people say is the best in hockey. Maple Leafs, out of all those offensive firepower, and then Sebastian Aho for the Hurricanes. They disappeared in those series, and Florida deserves a lot of credit for that. You've seen Aaron Ekblad play like the top pick that he was, and a lot of these other defensemen have done a really good job. And like you said, Bobrovsky was clinical in that series. So if he's clinical again for one more round, Vegas is going to have a hard time because they don't get a lot of shot attempts like the last couple games against Dallas. They're more of an analytic-driven team, but again, they have so much depth. If Florida can't get that depth, Vegas will win, but if they can, it's going to be a very tough series.
I mean, who would have thought that Hill would be starting over Jonathan Quick?
Right.
I mean, a guy that they brought in after being traded by the LA Kings. He went from one team, I think it was Columbus.
Right, and he was the cap casualty of Columbus.
And then they let him go, and he goes to Vegas, and everybody thinks he's going to be the guy that's going to lead Vegas to the Stanley Cup Finals. And it's this third string, second string goaltender who and this is what I've said, the playoffs in the NHL could change everything if you get a hot goalie. And Hill is one of the hottest goalies in the playoffs. He before they went 3-0, he lost one game.
Right.
One game. And then he lost 2 games in a row, but He has been sensational throughout the playoffs, and maybe the Las Vegas Knights found their future goaltender. It's been sensational. It's been fun to watch.
Yeah,
and that's the same thing that happened with Jonathan Quick with the LA Kings.
Right. And think about this too. Like, this is where you look at an adversity standpoint too with Vegas as well. Like, they're used to being able to play with so many different goalies. They had the Robin Leonard issues at the start of the year where he couldn't play at all. Then they went to Logan Thompson, who was a good kid. He played well in the beginning of the season before he got hurt, and then once he came back, he was never the same. Then he got hurt again, so he hasn't played in the playoffs. Then they went to this kid Brossois, who was the backup goalie in Winnipeg for a while. He played at the end of the season, the beginning of the playoffs. They had Jonathan Quick still on the team, and then they go to Aiden Hill once Brossois got pulled. I think it was in the Edmonton series when he allowed like 6 goals or whatever. And Quick didn't even play, so they hold goalie carousel, but nothing these skaters and these defense can't handle.
No, it's a great story, and it's going to be fun. So if you look at the NBA Finals and the NHL Finals, if you're a sports fan, I'm watching the NHL Finals from the NBA Finals because I already know what's going to happen in that Denver series. It would be magical to watch Miami beat Denver, but they're going to need God and his, Zeus and Poseidon. They're going to need God and all these crazy gods.
They're gonna need Bam Adebayo to grow to the length of Zeus for that many shot at this
They're gonna need something. I don't think they have a chance. I don't know how they stop Jokic. And by the way, who's going to defend Murray? Okay, so I don't understand it, but hey, that's why you watch the games. That's why the games are there. Maybe something surprising could happen. Maybe Jokic gets hurt. Maybe Murray gets hurt, and then Miami gets lucky. I mean, we've seen that before. So that's all you can hope if you're a Miami Heat fan. But congratulations to the Miami Heat knocking off the Boston Celtics. Did not expect that. I thought Boston was definitely going to win game number 7. It was surprising, but fun to watch.
The year of South of Florida underdogs continue. 2 Final Four teams with Florida Atlantic, Miami, and now 2 championship teams with the Heat and the Panthers.
Sportsnet NHL insider Elliot Friedman reports that the Rangers could be announcing Peter Laviolette as their next head coach next week. Chris Drury believes the decision to hire Laviolette would be a low risk with his coaching resume. The Blue Jackets are likely to hire Laviolette if the Rangers don't. As a head coach, he in 21 years as the NHL with the Islanders, Hurricanes, Flyers, Predators, and the Capitals, Laviolette has 752 wins in his head coaching career, 8th most in NHL history. Laviolette has a 32-29 career playoff record and has 3 Stanley Cup appearances, winning with the Hurricanes in 2006 and losing with the 7th seed Flyers and 8th seeded Predators in his other 2 appearances. The other names the Rangers have interviewed is Kraken's assistant coach, Jay Leach, Maple Leafs assistant coach, Spencer Carberry, Hartford Wolfpack coach, Chris Knobloch, and former Red Wings and Leafs head coach, Mike Babcock. So those are the guys they interviewed. It seems like it's going to be Peter. So yes, it's Pete time. It's not Pete's Dragon. It's not Speedy Petey.
Oh,
it's Peter Laviolette. So there you go. I think that's a good move by the Rangers.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
I think it's a steal for the Rangers. I think he's the best guy available, and I think he's going to do wonders for the Rangers. I was surprised they didn't interview Mark Messier again. I don't know if I take Mark Messier or Peter Laviolette, but Jay Leach, Spencer Carberry, the list over here doesn't really stand out to me. I mean, so Peter would be the best guy, and definitely the low risk move for a guy like Chris Drury. And this better work, because if it doesn't, Chris Drury will be looking for a new job very, very soon.
Yeah, of course. And again, Peter Laviolette, the one thing that his teams have always been is physical. Like, you're not going to have the top line talent with every team. Like you're saying, the Islanders, when he was there, they had good talent, but it wasn't like top line talent. The Predators were an 8 seed when they went to the Stanley Cup, and the Flyers, the same kind of thing, a 7 seed that a lot of older guys when they went to the Stanley Cup, and they just got hot in the playoffs. So he's coached teams that have to deal with adversity. And the Rangers, again, they have a very interesting offseason what they're going to do, but they have a coach that stresses physicality, which the Rangers have lacked in the playoffs a lot.
You bring in a physical coach, that means you're going to have to change your team around and your roster around. And I expect Chris Drury to make a lot of moves this offseason, because if they bring in a guy like Peter Laviolette, he is a guy that likes aggressive players, and they don't have any aggressive players. Who's their aggressive player? I mean, seriously, they have finesse players, and That doesn't work in his offense. That doesn't work in his defense. So I expect the Rangers to make a significant amount of moves this offseason to make this team either better or more, I guess, rough. And that's what they need. This is a team that's been craving for rough players. They decide to drop Reeves this year. It didn't make any sense when they need toughness. And then they added players finessely at the trade deadline that just didn't work. It didn't work, and that's why they got eliminated in the first round the way they did. They were embarrassed.
They got out face-offed by 20 in like every game against the Devils.
Absolutely embarrassed, the New York Rangers, as far as the Devils are concerned. And the Devils are an upcoming team. I love what the Devils did this year. I think they're going to be even better next year, as Jack Hughes' younger brother is going to play next year as a star defenseman who they drafted a couple of years ago in the first round. They're going to be fun to watch, okay? And they're only going to get better. Their farm system is loaded. So I expect the Devils to get not only better, but just you're going to see more speed, and you're going to see what this metropolitan division could transition into. I think Carolina's done. I think after watching them this year, and I know they had injuries, they're getting older, okay? They have older players, and they have to decide what they're doing at the goaltending position. I can't see them going back with the same goaltending they had last year, this past year. So, and last year, I think they have to change it up. The goaltending has not worked for them in the playoffs. Their goaltending has absolutely bombed. And by the way, their defense against the Florida Panther was horrendous. Okay, so
yeah, I never saw Jacob Slavin play so bad in a series like he did.
It just, Rob Brindamore. It's either going to be Rob Brindamore moving forward, but it seems like it's going to be because
he'll get one more year because of the injuries.
But if this doesn't work out this year, Rob Brindamore will be the biggest name available in the offseason next year. And it won't be the Rangers, because if they're going with Peter, it doesn't mean – I think they keep Peter there for at least 2-3 years and see what they got, because then Chris Drury could be looking for a new job. I don't hate Chris Drury. I know him as a player. I know him pretty well. He was a pretty good baseball player. He was a good hockey player. I played Team USA hockey. I know a lot about the guy. As a GM, I've questioned some of the moves that he made this year. I don't think they were bad moves, but to give away a first-round draft pick to a guy that you're probably not re-signing doesn't make any sense. Patrick Kane, you didn't have to give up a first, but you're going to have to give up a third. That's still a pick that you're losing. I know everybody says, "Oh, it's nothing. It's Patrick Kane." What did Patrick Kane do for you in the first round? Okay, honestly, and you're not re-signing him. He's not coming back. He's going to want money. So, and Vladimir Tarasenko is not coming back either, because there are other teams like the Islanders, like the Predators. There are teams out there that are willing to spend money to get those players there and that fit those cultures. I mean, I've been saying this over and over again. And we have Derek. Derek's actually here, so there you go.
Derek made a surprise appearance, I guess.
I told you he would. But Tarasenko is a guy that really, really stands out to me. And he will have an offseason. Not an offseason. He won't have that offseason. There'll be owners and coaches having an offseason to decide if they want to bring him into the team. He's still fairly young, too. Right. He's 31. He'll be 32 next year.
Don't be surprised, like you said, if Carolina goes for that one more year, they're going to have to try to do something at free agency, too, to get some 100%.
They couldn't stay healthy.
Carolina
could not stay healthy.
But again, you really showed their depth being deficient when they had all those injuries, too. They're going to need two more veteran players to help.
ESPN, Adrian Wojnarowski reports that the Sixers hired Nick Nurse to be their next head coach on Monday. Nurse mentioned his desire to work with NBA MVP Joel Embiid, and also has a good relationship with Sixers president Daryl Morey. There were rumors last week that Embiid did not prefer the Sixers hire with Nurse as the head coach after Doc Rivers got fired. Nurse had 227 wins and 162 losses in 5 seasons with the Raptors in the regular season. Nurse had a 25-16 playoff record and led the Raptors to their only championship in franchise history in 2009, beating the Warriors in 6 games. James Harden is set to be a free agent this summer and was rumored to be involved in the Sixers' decision to fire Doc Rivers. The 76ers have not reached the Eastern Conference Finals since 2001 season. The Sixers lost in the second round of the playoffs all 3 years under Doc. scam order Rivers. Okay. I'd say he's scam because that's what he is. He is, you know, when you get those like, those emails that, you know, they're like bad emails and they put like, what do they call,
encryptions
and stuff like that. That's Doc Rivers. That's Doc Rivers as a whole. Okay. The guy, I'm not taking shots at Doc Rivers. I don't think Doc Rivers is a bad guy. I don't. And that's an airplane, by the way, you know, flying over us. Hopefully nobody's going to kill himself, but we're pretty close.
The
to the
aliens
house.
are coming.
Who knows? But I will say this. Doc Rivers has done nothing. And I don't want to hear about winning a championship, okay? Because he had Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen, okay? And I mean, Derek could have coached that team, and they probably would have won. Chaz could have coached that team. Speedy, you and me could have coached that team, and they probably would have won, okay? I don't know why any. And by the way, they also had Rajon Rondo, so he's a pretty good player too. So for anybody to think and sit here and say, "Hey, look, hey everybody," I mean, it's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But we will get into some more football. We'll get into the Jimmy Garoppolo thing and DeAndre Hopkins. And by the way, Doug Mientkiewicz said something very, very interesting about A-Rod. I have no idea why Doug is speaking, but hey, you know what? You want the press? You want a story? Why not throw A-Rod a little bit of a bone?
Well, he was an ex-Red Sox.
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear what A-Rod has to say about Doug Mientkiewicz. That is, I will say this. I met A-Rod once. Well, actually, I met him a couple of times, but I actually got to speak with him once for 15 minutes. I told you that story. We spoke about everything but baseball, okay? We talked about football. We talked about basketball. Not much about baseball. The one thing I could tell you about Alex Rodriguez is he's not shy. He's not shy. He's pretty straightforward, and he doesn't have anything bad to say about ex-players he played with, okay? So that tells you the type of person Alex Rodriguez is to his former teammates. As far as, and I know everybody's going to say, well, what about Derek Jeter? He apologized to the whole Derek Jeter thing. And Derek actually said it was blown out of proportion. Okay. So I don't believe, A-Rod might not say anything to Doug Mientkiewicz, but it is an interesting story how, 10 years since Doug and A-Rod has played? I mean, it's been a long
2007 was his only year with the Yankees. He had 1 year with the Mets. He was a journeyman most of his career, played with the Red Sox, obviously, on the 2004 championship.
It's been a long time since Doug and A-Rod has played. So right. I don't know why he's speaking. But again, it is a story, and they're trying to sell something. So, hey, whatever.
Let the feuds begin.
I got a headache, okay? A headache with some of these ex-athletes that open their mouths. Nobody cares, okay? Nobody. Not Chaz, not Derek, not John. Either do I, and neither do you, Speedy. But so why is Doug Mientkiewicz, and I think I'm pronouncing his name right, why is he speaking when he wasn't even that good of a player? So I remember, didn't he play for the Red Sox too?
Yeah, he was on the 2004 championship Red Sox team. He was he played with so many other teams after that. He played a year with the Mets in 2005.
Did he play with the Oakland A's too, right?
I think after his Yankee career, yeah, he was with the Dodgers, the Pirates, a few other teams. But yeah, he was with the Yankees only the 1 year.
We should get him on the show. You should.
I think I've tried.
Reach out to him again.
I didn't get him. I wasn't able to get him, but I'm pretty sure I did try, especially since he was.
I would love to get Doug on the show.
He actually, I remember because the 2005 season was my first full season watching baseball, and he actually had a pretty good year. Not as like a full-time player, because I think he came off the bench sometimes.
He always came off the bench,
but he had 11 home runs that year or something like that.
Ooh.
I mean, for a bench player, you'll take that. I mean, it's not Matt Stairs, who had almost 20 as a bench player every year for the Phillies, but still, I think
the Mets could use him. Yeah, the Mets could use him in the offense right now.
Oh, sure. Let's get another veteran player. Buck doesn't play the youngsters enough. Let's add another veteran player.
That's true. Buck will play him. That's for sure. How old is he? 50?
At this point, who knows? But
I wonder if he could still see a fastball.
Well, hopefully he finally learned something with Francisco Alvarez, the series he had this weekend.
I think it's a changeup. No, it's a fastball. Anyways, the Mets are actually up 2-0. It's the 8th inning. They're having a good pitching game right over here. You had Lindor hit a home run. So if you're a Met fan or if you're betting on this game, good for you.
Yeah, Senga pitching well.
Senga's been their best pitcher. I told you that he was going to be their best pitcher. It's going to be the second year. That's when all these hitters are going to see him at least once or twice. That's when you know if Senga's a good pitcher, because we've seen these Japanese pitchers come into the league. They have very good first years, and then they fall off. Every single one of them. Maybe 2 or 3 of them. I think 2 of them actually have proven to be otherwise. I mean, Ohtani being one of them.
Darvish.
Yeah. And then the Yankees. What's his name again on the Yankees? He played pretty well. Yeah, no, not Agawa.
Adabo. What was his name?
Yeah. No, it wasn't.
Tanaka.
And by the way, there are a lot of Japanese pitchers that have been on the Yankees that the Yankees brought in that have absolutely failed. So, thank you, Brian. But I like what Brian Cashman has done this offseason. And Aaron Judge is hot right now. And he'll probably win an MVP again if he stays healthy. We was just speaking about it before we came on the show. So, interesting. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we will have Derek Mountain. Yes, we will have Chazzy on. And we will have Jonathan Jorson on as well here as we get into Let's Parlay on the Sports Loudmouths.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing. I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is the Sports Loudmouths.
Oh, Jay-Z, I like this.
I should have played when Robin Lundberg was on last week. Who knew?
We all know he loves Jay-Z. Jigga. 631-672-3108 is the number to call. You are listening to the Sports Loudmouths. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, the Speedster. Yes, he is wearing underwear, by the way, tonight. Yeah, right? You wearing underwear? Okay, I'm just asking, man. I mean, you're wearing a chain. You're looking hip, man. You look like a drug dealer today, you know? You do. You look like a drug dealer.
All right.
Well, you do. I mean, Derek probably knows a lot about that.
Jeff thinks that Derek isn't a real person. He's an alibi. He's an alias.
Real. I mean, how is he? Well, hold on one second. How is he not a real person?
That's Jeff's lie. Thinks Derek is some kind of alias for something else.
He's out of his damn mind. Anyways, you can check out our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Sports Loudmouths, which airs every single Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and Thursdays at 9 p.m. I know what you guys are going to say. You're going to say it's Tuesday. Why are you guys on Tuesday? Because we are not doing a show tomorrow. It's just this week. We will move the show from Wednesday to Tuesday, and we will have a show on Thursday. So stay tuned. We will get into who we were going to have as guests on Thursday before the show is over. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Derek Mountain, we have Chaz, and we have Jonathan for our segment, Let's Parlay.
Parlay, ole, ole, ole. It's time for Let's Parlay.
By the way, I want to apologize to Wes. I saw him after the show. He sent me his Venmo. I've been so busy, I haven't had a chance to send it to him. So, Wes, if you're listening to the show, I will send it to you. by the end of this. Actually, I'll send it today after the show. I mean, Speedy, just remind me so I can send it to Wes. I know he wanted me, by the way, guys, Wes wanted me to pay for, what do you want me to pay for? His company name or
something like that.
He wanted me to pay for his company name. What the hell does he think I am? What does he want me to pay $5,000 for a company name or something like that? Whatever. Anyways, we have Chaz, we have Jonathan, and we have Derek. What's up, boys?
I'm just here for the free food.
Free food. Free food. I mean, did you eat? I mean, it's in San Diego. What time is it right now in San Diego? Is it 6
Dinner
o'clock?
time. Hello. Speedy said if I come out Tuesday, it's early this week, that he would have pizza for me.
All right. You want me to send you pizza? Listen, I will send you $10 or $12 for Venmo, and you get your 3 or 4 slices. What do you think about that? Is that good for you?
Yeah, it's tough buying slices out here.
Why? Is it crap out there?
This isn't the East Coast. This is San Diego.
Why? You don't have good pizza out there? There's no good pizza?
No, there's good pizza, but very few slices places, you know?
Oh, all right.
You buy a whole pie or you get not.
All right. How much is a pie out there?
Like $22.
$22? You want me to send you 22? Is that going to help you?
I'll just remember next time.
All right.
Promises.
John, what's up, buddy?
Hey man, just living large here. We got kind of limited sports right now, but we're doing what we can do with what we got.
Well, I don't have unlimited sports, but hey, listen, if there's a story, we'll talk about it. I mean, Speedy just told us today that he's not a virgin anymore, so that's a good thing. Look at it. Look at that smile on his face. That's a good sign, right? You're not a virgin anymore.
I would hope all three of you knows that he's lying.
Derek, what's going on,
man? Not much to add to that. Shefty tweeted it out this morning, like 7 a.m. Gave me a little rush. 100 days until the opening NFL kickoff that Thursday night between the Lions and the Chiefs. So not awful. I mean, that's still a long time, but you got a lot of content in between now and then, between training camp and all that stuff with the NFL. So it's closer than we think.
Well, I will tell you guys something. Sitting here today, I'm not looking forward to the football season. I know everybody is, because I'm just excited right now that Aaron Rodgers is a Jet. So knowing me as a Jet fan and being so excited, he will step on the field, break his leg, and the season will be over. So that's why I'm not looking forward to it. I just want to be happy that he is a Jet until the season starts. So right now, I'm gliding right now. We had Fireman Ed on the show today. That's great. He's the biggest Jet fan. He's doing his Jet chants, and I'm happy about that. And he's excited. We're all excited, but when push comes to shove, we all know what happens to the Jets when the season starts. It just doesn't work out.
Derek, we also mentioned all these Georgia Bulldogs that are on the Eagles now. Their new name is the Georgia-Delphia Eagle Dogs.
Eagle Dogs. I love it. The Eagle Dogs. There you go. So, all right. So what we're going to do with Let's Parlay, you guys have 4 picks. We're going to go from Derek, Chaz, and Jonathan. We're going to go around in a circle. Speedy, what are their records? Do you have?
All right. So you were both 2-2 last week, and overall, Jonathan, you were 14-6. Derek, you're in a little bit of a slump still, 6-8 right now with a lot of future bets pending. And Chaz, you only actually made the picks the 1 week. You're 1-2 with a push.
What was my record last week?
Your record in overall is 4-4. I don't think you made bets last week.
Okay, there you go. I'm 4-4.
But you did get your boxing one. I think you were 3-1 1 week, 1-3 the other. So
see,
so 4-4.
I'm jinxed. I'm jinxed.
But you did get your boxing one.
All right, but I'm not picking because we have 3 guys tonight. So
yes.
It'll be Chaz, Derek, and Jonathan. Chaz, you're not doing it? All right, so
I am. I'm not ready for anything on Tuesday.
I got it. I'll do it. I'll do it.
I would not miss listening to the other 2 guys because I know they give out winners.
Okay, so here we'll go. Here's what we'll do. We'll have Derek, we'll have John, and then we'll have me, and we'll take our 4 biggest bets and parlay it. Okay. All right, Speedy, you ready? Let's go. Derek, you first.
All right. I will start with baseball tonight. We got Nationals Dodgers at 10-10. I am going to go with the over 8.5. A little bit contrarian, I think. A rec better might see that Tony Gonsolin is on the mound for the Dodgers, 1.62 ERA. It looks good on the surface, but I think he's due for regression. 37th percentile in average exit velocity, 28th percentile in strikeout rate. So I think the Nationals can put the ball in play here. And in 4 of his 6 starts, he hasn't even gone past 5 innings pitched. On the other side, Jake Irvin has only gone to 5 innings pitched in 1 of his 5 starts. So either way, I think both these teams are going to break out their bullpens early in the game, and you have 2 of the worst bullpens in MLB. In terms of ERA, the Nationals are 9th worst in baseball. The Dodgers are 6th worst in baseball. So even if this bet isn't looking great in the first 3 or 4 innings, I still think it has plenty of life towards later in the game when you get towards those secondary arms in the bullpen. 8.5 is not a huge number, especially for this Dodgers offense. They could get to 9 by themselves. They rake righties between Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, Will Smith, James Outman, all these guys. So I really like this bet over 8.5.
John.
Yeah, we're going to rock with it's actually later tonight. Should be starting here shortly. Diamondbacks, Rockies. We're going to take a team total over. This game was 7-5 yesterday. I'm going to take the Diamondbacks to get over 4.5. I got it at minus 145. On surface value, you're going to kind of see Freeland's been one of the better pitchers for the Rockies. And actually, kind of probably surprisingly, Rockies have a pretty good bullpen. I think they're like around 3.8 or so, kind of right around middle of the pack. Not what you're expecting from the Rockies. I'm going down this lineup, and they've had a lot of success against Freeland. I think they're out of 9 guys, 8 of them have played experiences against Freeland. They're batting a 278 with 8 home runs versus him. It's a hitter-friendly park. They just scored 7. Keep the train rolling against a guy they've just had a lot of success against. So give me the Diamondbacks over 4.5. It's juicy at minus 145, minus 140, but I think it's a play that they can get in the first couple innings.
I have the Braves in the Oakland Athletics tonight. The Braves lose game number 1, 7-2 against the Oakland Athletics. Not surprised. The Braves have been back and forth over the last couple of weeks. I do believe the Braves will win tonight. I have the Braves on the money line. Bryce Elder on the mound against J.P. Sears. If you don't know who he is, he was one of the Yankees prospects. He was part of the trade last year with the Oakland Athletics. I expect a better showing by the Braves tonight offensively. If you want, I'll even take the over 8.5 in this game, but I'm going to take the money line. I have the Braves winning on the money line.
All right, back to me. So I will go to basketball for Thursday, game 1. I'm going to go with a combo. Jokic over 40.5 points and rebounds combined. So this one feels pretty low. He has hit this marker in 10 of 15 games in the postseason. I think you look at the matchup and people might be a little scared away. He's going to play against Bam Adebayo, who's 4-time second team all defense. He's renowned as one of the best defenders in the NBA, but Jokic has absolutely eaten Bam Adebayo alive when they've played against each other. I know it's only 2 matchups a year, but per Sports Info Solution, so they do analytics, Jokic is averaging 50 points against Adebayo per 42 minutes played. So extrapolating those matchups. And it makes sense. I mean, Adebayo has a long wingspan. He can switch on screens. He's really athletic, but he's 6'8", 6'9", and going against Jokic, he has the size on him. He's built like an industrial refrigerator. We know how wide Jokic is, and he can use that size to his advantage. So I don't think scoring is going to be a problem for him. And the rebounding angle, too. I mean, the Heat do it by committee between Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, Caleb Martin. They don't really have a rebounding mogul, like a guy that kind of swallows up all the rebounds, like a guy like Jokic. He's gone up against guys like DeAndre Ayton, Anthony Davis, Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, these first 3 rounds. I actually think on the rebounding side, it's probably the most advantageous matchup for Jokic yet. So I love him to clear this line game 1, 40.5 over points and rebounds combined.
Johnny.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that game and give me a shout out. The boy from Reno, Caleb Martin. Loving what he's been doing, and I'm just going to take what's been feeding us all postseason long. That's his over 3-pointers, and you're still going to get plus money because they did jack it up to 2.5. I'm okay with that. He actually got instilled in the starting rotation yesterday, put up a show, 26 points, hit 4, I believe, 3-pointers. He's going to be able to put them. He has the green light. He's going to put up a ton of 3-point shots. He needs to make 3 plus 125. Even if in a game where I do think that the Nuggets are probably going to be the better team throughout the series, I think there might be a couple blowouts actually. I still think Caleb Martin's going to get his. I think he's proven in this playoff he's actually been the number 2. I really haven't been impressed with what I've seen from Bam, at least on the offensive side of the basketball. Give me Caleb Martin over 2.5 threes. He had over 2.5 in every single game in the Eastern Conference Finals except for one. He had 2. I think he's going to be right around the number. If it's any type of close game, you're going to get him to shoot some shots, and we'll get that over at a plus money.
Saturday, June 3rd, Florida and Vegas. Obviously, you look at both teams, and both teams have been scoring at will throughout the playoffs. Vegas averaged almost 4 goals a game against a Dallas team, and was 3.5 throughout that series. Practically every single game was back and forth. They were scoring at will, and same thing with Florida. Florida was scoring a tremendous boatload of goals against a very good overall defensive team throughout the season. Rob Brindamore, Carolina Hurricanes team. I think that it's going to continue in the Stanley Cup Finals. I think both goalies have played well. Bobrovsky and Hill have been played very, very well. But I think right now the over is 5.5. I expect it to be over 5.5. So I'm going to take the over on Saturday night, the Florida and Vegas game, 5.5 on the over.
All right, I am going to go to tomorrow's MLB slate. Pittsburgh Pirates and the San Francisco Giants. I am going to play the under 8 runs. This is a bet on Mitch Keller, the Pittsburgh Pirates starter, and this is a bet against the Pittsburgh Pirates offense. So Keller, who's going to be on the mound, for my money, I think he should be neck and neck with Spencer Strider and Zach Gallen for the NL Cy Young conversation. Just not going to be talked about as much on a Pirates team that's really fallen off after their hot start. 86th percentile in average exit velocity, 92nd percentile in hard hit percentage, and he is 4th in the league in strikeouts. So he's getting people to swing and miss, and when they make contact with him, it is not hard contact, which is a really rare combination that you see with pitchers. I know San Fran's in their better split. They're top 10 in just about every important metric against right-handed pitchers, but I'm just going to trust the stud here. I think he's going to come out and deal like he's done all year. On the other side, like I said, Pittsburgh has really fallen off a cliff. After their 20-8 start, they are now 26-27 going into tonight. So they could be 26-28 heading into tomorrow. But ever since O'Neal Cruz went down in the beginning of the year, their lineup has really struggled. Outside of Brian Reynolds and Jack Sawinski, they really just don't have much pop in that lineup. They're playing in Oracle Park, not a hitter-friendly park by any stretch of the imagination. So I think this number is a little high. I kind of thought seeing at least Mitch Keller with this offense, the number would be around 7.5. So under 8, I love this play.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, we're going to go with the Vegas Knights Panthers game. I'm going to take game 1. Give me the Vegas Knights. Look, I think they're the better team. I thought, and this is going to sound weird, I thought Carolina was the better team. They outshot Florida almost every game. They were probably the more physical team. They're probably the more faster team. The puck just did not fall. Bobrovsky played out of his absolute mind. You cannot play that same way against Vegas. If you get outshot by Vegas, you're going to lose the game. One thing that Vegas does very well is their goalkeeper is their weak point, and they know that. And they've done a really good job at putting the right defensive pieces in front of him to get all the pressure off of him. They're out in space. They're great with the puck. If you put it in the net with anybody, I think Ottinger is one of the better goalies in the league. He looked really pedestrian against this Vegas Knights team. I think Florida is the third team that's reached with entering the playoffs at the lowest point total. They're the third team to reach the Stanley Cup Final. The previous 2, Nashville and Montreal, I believe. They both lost. I was in 2017. I want to say 2021. They both fell short. I believe Florida falls short again. Give me the game one, -135. Vegas Knights gets out in front. They take game one. They take the series, but we'll go the bet is going to be game one.
Mine tomorrow, the Yankees game at 9:40. I know everybody says tonight, but Nestor Cortez, the Yankees won 10-4 yesterday. I think they have a letdown tonight. I think Seattle will win tonight, but tomorrow, and especially Anthony Rizzo is not going to be in the lineup this tonight. Jose Trevino is not going to be in the lineup tonight, and Harrison Bader won't be in the lineup tonight. That means they'll be in the lineup tomorrow. Luis Severino will be on the mound. He looked pretty good in his first start with the Yankees. I expect him to go to Seattle and put up some good numbers. Over the last couple of years, Luis Severino has played and he's pitched very well against the Seattle Mariners. So I expect him to pitch very, very well tomorrow. I think the Yankees will put up the numbers. I think the Yankees win tomorrow. I would bet it would be over 10 runs tomorrow against Seattle. Don't quote me on that. I think the Yankees win on the money line tomorrow night at 9:40 with Luis Severino on the mound.
I am going to go with the Cup as well. I'm going to go head-to-head with Johnny here. So I'm going with Florida in game one. It's not a pick I'm super in love with, but I just like that it's plus money. They're at plus 110 right now. I think that's good value for what I think is a coin flip. I think it's a 50-50 toss-up for game one. And just there are a lot of numbers to back up Florida in game one. So they've won their last 7 on the road in the postseason. They're 8-1 overall. These guys are road warriors so far. They're on an absolute tear, beating arguably the 3 best teams in hockey in their 3 opponents so far. There have been 5 instances this year. I saw the stat today. There have been 5 instances this year where Florida has had extended rest, which is at least 5 days of rest or more. They are 5-0 in the first game back from those extended rests, and there's only 1 instance of that in the postseason so far. But 5-0 in those games, they've outscored their opponents 29-11 in those games combined. So they're really, really good in that spot, even though they were pretty pedestrian in the regular season. And I'm just going to trust Bobrovsky. It's a little bit dicey considering he's coming off 10 days rest, but he is on a historic tear right now. The way that he has been playing, if I get him at plus money in game one for 2 teams that I think are relatively even, I agree with Johnny. I do think Vegas is probably the deeper and better team, but I think it's pretty close. I think it's 55-45, 60-40. It's close enough where if I'm getting the plus money on a game that I think should be a coin flip, I'll take that chance. I'll back the hot goalies. So give me Florida on the money line on Saturday at plus 110.
Go ahead, John.
So if I do a series, no, I'm not going to do a series play. Let's just do a baseball play. I was going to do a series play, but let's just make sure that we get this calculated for this week. I'm going to take a play tomorrow. Actually, going to take the Giants on the money line minus 125. I know it's kind of going head to head, but against the Pirates there, and your play with the under. I just think Alex Wood's a phenomenal pitcher, and I'm not really high on the Giants offense either. I know Mitch Keller's going to be great. I think Alex Wood's probably going to outpitch Keller a little bit at home. He's got more comfortable surroundings. I think it's a low enough price for me to lay a minus 120 or so against a Pirates team that's just really on a bad run. I got a couple rules in baseball: is you never get in front of a train that's winning. You never want to be that bet against a 10-game win streak, 11-game win streak, whatever. And you also never want to hop on a guy on a team that's been losing. Right? That's not what you're going to back. I fade them. I think I went on a streak. I think after the Athletics had lost 3 or 4 in a row, I faded every time run line, and I just basically did that until yesterday when they lost. I'm off them tonight, but I'm doing the same thing here pretty much. I'm just backing a team that I'm fading a team that's just been terrible as of late. They started 20-8. Think about that, 20-8, and they are now have a losing record and could potentially be 2 games under 500. Give me the Giants. They have probably their best pitcher, the most consistent pitcher on the hill as well. So I'll take the Giants tomorrow minus 125.
UFC Fight Night, main event, Amir Albazi versus K. Kara France. Two really good fighters. I mean, they're right now even, minus 110. I'm going to go with Amir Albazi. I think he's going to win the fight. I will take it on the money line. I will take him. He'll definitely win it outright. But I wouldn't be surprised if he submits him in the second round. I expect this to be a really defensive fight. Albazi, he has some power, but he's more of a submission guy. He'll take you down. He'll wrestle you to the ground. They call him the Iraqi prince. Okay, so he expects these guys to think that he can't shoot at you and take you down and out grapple you. This guy is as good a grappler right now in the flyweight division as anyone. So give me Amir Albazi on the money line.
All right, before we move on, I'll just read some of Carl's comments. Long break could take away some momentum from Bobrovsky's play. Carl, take a shot at Derek plays Pirates are garbage. Not much of a take, calling Vegas the better team. See how Vegas handles the dump and the forecheck. Errol betting a getaway game. Yikes. Although they do have a day off on Thursday and take the race tomorrow.
Screw you, Carl.
We have to get Carl back on video like he did with the mock draft.
He's such an ass. He really is. Oh, man. Okay. What do we have? One more?
No, that's 4 for all of us.
All right. If you want to parlay it, I would parlay it that Albazi submits Mr. France. So I expect him to submit him in the second round. That's what I think. So I don't think this fight's going to go the distance. I think both guys. I mean, France is a good fighter. He's a good stand-up fighter. He could knock you out. But Albazi, he has a good chin, and he can knock you out. He has knockout power, but he's more of a submission guy. He will take you down. He's 16-1. He's only lost one fight, and honestly, it's questionable if he lost that fight. So I think he's one of the better fighters in the flyweight division. He will be up for a belt a lot sooner than you think. So if he wins this fight, it's only going to get him closer. So there you go. I expect this fight to be Albazi. It's very close. I mean, I think it's minus 110 right now. It's a very, you could go either way, but I think Albazi is a better fighter. So I expect that to happen on Saturday night as the main event for the UFC. It'll be a good one. So, and you guys will actually be able to watch it. It'll be on ESPN. So you'll have the opportunity to get a chance to check it out. Derek, thank you for joining us as always.
Thanks for having me.
You're good. You're really good. And by the way, his future picks could really set him apart from everybody else. Just so you know.
Just praying for that. Get me back to 500.
Don't worry. Wes is coming for you. He's hit a slump the last 2 weeks.
Oh, that's right.
He's only 10-9 now. After a 9-3 start, he's falling apart.
You know what it is about Wes is he still has that Golden State, thing and the Ranger thing, like really lurking up his one. So, I told him those picks were horrible. I told him, and he says, we'll see. Oh, okay. Well, I was right about that, Wes. But Wes is really good. He's CFL, and his picks with CFL is ridiculous. But
by the way, Carl also comments, John making the bottle while making picks.
Shaking the bottle. The way he shakes the bottle, I think he could, do the cucaracha. What do you think, Speedy?
I was a bartender.
There you go.
That's what it was.
Could you imagine him and Derek working as bartenders behind me?
You don't want to burn your kid's mouth. That'd be a bad night.
I wasn't very good. I was busy watching the games that I had money on. So I was all watching the TV.
All right,
maybe
boys.
Derek should do that and wait for his future bets.
Well, Derek has a girl, so he could do that. He can start throwing shots with his girlfriend. I mean,
he's throwing a shot all right. He's trying out for the Nikola Jokic ×3 after his first one was first one was a little short. So hopefully he doesn't score 39.
Oh man, Jokic is going to kill. He is going to kill the Miami Heat.
That bet is the one I feel the best about. So it's probably going to flop. But I mean, the way he's been playing, Okay. Also, I do think if Miami wants to have a chance of winning, you got to let Jokic just get his 30 or 40 points and not let Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. beat you. You can't double Jokic. He's going to find the open guy every time. He's the best big man in terms of passing out the double by far. You can't give guys like KCP and Jamal and all those guys open threes. Like, that's a death sentence for Miami. If you're Spoelstra, I think you just got to live with one-on-one coverage with Dan and
to be honest,
those guys.
What'd you say, Johnny?
Yeah, let him get 50. Let him get 50.
I mean, the game he got 50.
That sounds crazy, but
I think that's the way to do it.
You gotta let him get 50. You gotta let him get 50. Let him get 50, and you just shut down. Even if Murray has 25, like you really got to shut down KCP. You got to shut down Porter. You got to shut down everybody else. Let him eat. Let Murray eat a little bit, and that's it. I think the reason why I took a different a prop play on this series, I'm a little nervous. I thought that he were going to lose against. They looked terrible in the play-in. They looked terrible in the play-in. I was like, and I was kind of high on them going into play. I'm like, this team is going to give the Celtics trouble, and then they play the play, and I'm like, God, this team is trash. And then they just they're very unpredictable. So I don't want to make a decision yet on game one because I want to see what happens. And if we're sitting here in a couple weeks and the Heat won the series, I really won't be that shocked because they just find ways to do what they're not supposed to do. They weren't supposed to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. They weren't supposed to be in Boston Game 7. They were not supposed to beat Boston after failing to win Game 4 3 straight times. It just wasn't supposed to be, and they just find a way. So I'm gonna kind of wait and see, and then I'm not gonna make a decision. I'm gonna take the coward's way out. I'm gonna just kind of wait and see, and I'll make a decision.
I have Denver in 6. I have Denver in 6, and Miami will be lucky if they win 2 games. That's my opinion. So
I got Denver in 6, and I got your Knights in 6, John.
I would feel better about
Knights and 6 is good
if they closed it out earlier in 7, but I think their legs might be toast.
And I have, and by the way, Butler's not 100%.
So I think, well, my thing with that is it goes with rest because they've been sitting for 9 days. They're going to be sitting for 9 or 10 days by the time they take the court again. So the Nuggets, it's like you want rest.
Well, Miami better win because if they don't, they're going to have a very, very.
That's what they've done the first 3 series, stolen game 1. So I mean. They're gonna be in the altitude too, and it's on short rest. I don't know. I think Jimmy's definitely hurt. Gabe Vincent's hurt. Tyler Hero might come back by game 3, game 4. But that bench is pretty short right now. No Oladipo, obviously. I don't know. You're relying on Kyle Lowry now, who looked great game 1 against Boston, but it's over for him. I think you can't rely on minutes for him anymore. His legs are shot.
Yeah.
Kevin Love doesn't even play anymore. He's out of the rotation. So Denver's bench isn't really existent outside of Bruce Brown. It's a little bit of Christian Brown, a little bit of Jeff Green, but they've got 10 days rest now. So that advantage that Miami might have had 2 weeks ago on paper, now it kind of might be gone. Just their depth isn't really a huge advantage anymore. Just how banged up they are.
Derek, two great stats. You mentioned Christian Braun. He won 3 national championships at high school. He won a national championship at Kansas, and now he has a chance to win an NBA Finals 5 times in 7 years or something like that. And then the other great stat is Kevin Love has never lost an Eastern Conference playoff series, and that continues.
I saw that one. I saw that this morning. That's unbelievable.
Well, he needs to shave that beard. He looks horrible. Anyways, boys, thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. We'll see you next week.
Chaz, John, and
I'm hopping on right now and Ben the baseball games you guys gave me. So hopefully they're winners. We'll talk. Always
thank you, Chaz. We'll talk to you soon, man. Chazzy. All right. So let's get into the other topics that we haven't gotten into. So we got quite a few topics to get into before the show is over. The Cardinals officially released DeAndre Hopkins on Friday, resulting in dead cap hit of $22.6 million against the Cardinals. The Cardinals said they were frustrated with Hopkins when he sat out for the final 2 games of the season when he was healthy. Hopkins only played 19 games over the last 2 seasons with the Cardinals between injuries and also being suspended for 6 games for PEDs. Hopkins, in 3 years with Arizona, had 221 catches, 2,696 yards, and 17 touchdowns in 35 games. Sports Illustrated, Albert Breer, reports that the Bills and the Chiefs have been the only 2 teams that have actively talked to Hopkins so far. Hopkins also listed the Chargers, Ravens, and Eagles as other teams with quarterbacks he would really want to play with. The Panthers, Lions, Texans, Packers, and Browns are other teams that have been linked to Hopkins as well. Let me tell you something. Whoever takes Hopkins, and the best fit for Hopkins, I agree with Daigle. It's Kansas City. It absolutely is Kansas City because he will be the number 1 target. Well, he'll be the number 1 wide receiving target on the roster. That means Travis Kelce will get the most looks. He'll get the second most looks. So he has the best chance to be the active wide receiver he's been in his career when he was at the top of his game. The problem is the guy can't stay healthy. He hasn't been healthy. And with the PED situation and everything, and if you look at those numbers in 3 years, for a decent wide receiver in the league, 221 catches, 2,696 yards and 17 touchdowns in 35 games is pretty good. I mean, those numbers are pretty good. But to be DeAndre Hopkins, who's a borderline Hall of Famer, he is a borderline Hall of Famer. And for 6 years, he was the elite of the elite. You can argue it was Antonio Brown, it was him, or it was Julio Jones. I mean, those were the 3 guys that you would argue were the 3 best wide receivers for the last 6 years. So to see him just completely dip the way he did is very surprising. Now, he was, up to making almost $32 million this year, which was ridiculous. Right. And that's why when you look at the Cardinals and they don't have a quarterback, who's starting this year?
Colt McCoy
in the beginning of the season. So they're expecting this to be a really bad season. And don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if they have the number 1 pick next year, which quite possibly could happen, that they decide to part ways with Kyler Murray.
Take Caleb Williams. Yeah.
Yes, they could absolutely do that. We've seen them do this. This isn't a first thing. They went with Josh Rosen, who was a top 10 pick. After 1 year, they bring in another coach. They bring in Kyler Murray, and now the coach is fired. Kyler Murray is hurt. He tore his ACL. So what happens this year? They're starting the season. You might not see Kyler Murray until the end of the second half of the season. That might not be enough. They might say, you know what, you're sitting out for the season. We're not playing you. Okay. And they lose. Why would they play Kyler Murray if they're not making the playoffs? What would be the point of that? Right. When they can decide, hey, you know what? You missed the whole season. Then we trade you in the offseason. And we get Caleb Williams, who I think is the best quarterback prospect since. I know everybody keeps saying Trevor Lawrence. I would think Andrew Luck. I think he is. I don't care what anybody says. Who did we have? Who was that guy that told me that Caleb Williams is
Carl Reed?
Yeah. And I will tell Carl Reed this. He will win the Heisman this year. He will win the Heisman this year. And don't be so surprised. Hear this out. That USC is a national champion this year. Okay? That's my prediction. All right? If you want to throw and let it stick on the wall, everybody thinks it's Georgia or Alabama or any of these other guys, Clemson. Don't be so surprised if USC is a national champion this year.
Oh, they should have been in contention for it last year, but their defense didn't know how to tackle in the Pac-12 championship game.
Mark my words. Yeah. Just mark it. And Caleb Williams will win the Heisman Trophy yet again. So,
and again, the other thing you mentioned too is the Cardinals having trouble, having an issue with Hopkins not playing the last 2 games of the season when they were already out. Like, why is that an issue? Why is that a leverage point to say, all right, we're going to get rid of you now? Like, that should not be a thing. And if they do that with Kyler Murray, he's going to want out again. He already has an issue with this new coach as it is.
The guy talks in a third person. So eventually he'll be talking in a fourth person. There'll be like 3 guys around him thinking that he's a wide receiver, tight end, and a quarterback. I love Kyler Murray. Okay, I loved him. We both loved him. And John, I would give Josh Silverberg a lot of credit because he said we were nuts. And last year, he's been a complete bust. In his last year and a half of football, it's just been horrible. And that has a lot to do with maybe the players. They don't like him. I've heard that the players in the locker room can't stand him. So if the players don't like you and the coaching staff don't like you and the guy Kingsbury is no longer part of the organization that wanted you, I would say that he might be playing baseball in the next 2 or 3 years. Okay. He might not be football anymore.
Oh, he gets to go play for those amazing Oakland Athletics. Go from one terrible team to another at this point.
I don't know how that works. I don't know if they still.
No, they
own
still
it.
have his rights.
Really?
The Athletics at the moment. Yeah. So,
I mean, I would start looking into it.
I mean, yeah, you can go play for that terrible Athletics team that have won 11 games all year and are on pace to be just as bad as the 1962 Mets. But that's another story.
I just question when you look at the picture of the way the Cardinals like to build things. This team, they build things up in 3 years. They have one good year and then everything falls apart. And this has been going on really since Kurt Warner. It just doesn't work.
Right.
And they had Bruce Arians, they had Todd Bowles, who was a great defensive coordinator. I still think he's a good defensive coordinator. I just don't think he's a good head coach. So I think that the way this team and this organization has transitioned from one thing to another, it's been an embarrassment. And to draft so many, and I'll be one to say this, I'm a Jet fan, and the Jets are the only team in NFL history in a 4-year, 5-year span to draft 2 quarterbacks in the top 3 picks.
Yeah,
and
4 years apart.
And both of them completely failing. I mean, Sam Darnold, I think, is going to achieve this year in San Francisco. I think that was a great move by San Francisco. I really do. And I think he wins the job over Brock Purdy and Trey Lance. I'm telling you, hear me out on this. I think Sam Darnold is going to beat Trey Lance on the job this year, 100%. And when Purdy is ready to come back, I think the way Sam Darnold's going to play with the weapons that they have, they're going to be like, it's Sam's job to lose. And Sam is I am not a Kyle Shanahan fan, but being that he's closer to home now and his family and his friends, he's back in California. I mean, he went from the Jets to Carolina, to franchise that kind of ruined him. And now
Carolina out of nowhere too.
Yeah, San Francisco, him over there, I think he's going to achieve. I really do. I mean, you see what Kyle Shanahan, he is a good quarterback guy. He helps quarterbacks develop. He did it with Jimmy. He did it with everybody. He
made bad quarterbacks look competent.
Matt Ryan too. I mean, Matt Ryan won his MVP when he was the offensive coordinator. Right. So I expect him to be very, very good for Sam and his growth. And Sam's still young. He's 26 years old, 27. He's still in the prime of his career. He can really develop. And we've seen quarterbacks develop in the later parts of their career. Rich Gannon being one of them. And that was with the Raiders. So why not Sam Darnold? Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio reports that Jimmy Garoppolo did not pass his physical with the Raiders. Jimmy G underwent foot surgery after signing with the Raiders, and actually signing with his contract was delayed. It was delayed because of it. The Raiders included a clause in his contract called the addendum G. I don't know what that means, which allows the Raiders to terminate the contract if Jimmy G has any injuries to the left foot, which he had surgery with. If Jimmy G does pass his physical, plays at least one game, and does not re-injure that foot this season, the clause is taken away. The Raiders removed $11.25 million of Jimmy G's signing bonus as a result of the clause. Jimmy G suffered a foot injury week 13 last season against the Dolphins and did not play for the rest of the season, even with the 49ers having quarterback injuries to Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. So that's an interesting story. First of all, the fact that Jimmy G failed his physical just shows you how incompetent the Raiders are. Okay. I'm speaking the truth here. You push away a quarterback who's been your best quarterback of your franchise. He has been Derek Carr, say whatever you want. He's not a good long thrower. He's not accurate long throwing. He had, out of all the quarterbacks of your franchise, and your franchise has been around a long time, Derek Carr has been your best quarterback of your franchise. He was a second-round draft pick, and you made a move to bring in Devontae Adams over there, his best friend, all right? And now, after 1 year, you move from having your best quarterback of your franchise to no quarterback, and maybe a quarterback that might not play this year because he's not 100% healthy. It was a horrible signing, and that shows you how incompetent Josh McDaniels really is. He's an idiot, and it just shows you how bad he is when it comes to running his own organization as a head coach. It didn't work over there with the Broncos. It will not work with Las Vegas, and he will be back under the helm of Bill Belichick's New England Patriots. And that says a lot because O'Brien is back with him. O'Brien eventually, even if Josh McDaniel lasts the year, they'll probably have Josh McDaniels co-offensive coordinator with O'Brien because they did it last year with the defensive coordinator and a wide receiver coach, which made absolutely no sense.
The great Joe Judge and the great Matt Patricia.
Oh, horrible.
But reading of this was very interesting because I never seen anything like this place in a clause like right after the deal. And it was unknown for a while. It didn't come out obviously until just now. So it's been 2 months, but still it looks really bad on both parties when you look at it. Jimmy Garoppolo, if he knew he was going to get off-season surgery, why does he have to sign that quickly for one? And just get the surgery first where you'll pass a physical, and now you're going to lose $11 million, potentially more because of it. And then if you're the Raiders, why are you not doing your due diligence on an injury-prone quarterback as it was? Because think about it, Jimmy Garoppolo signed really early in the free agency process, too.
And it's a foot injury.
Right.
And it's on his throwing foot.
Yeah, and it looked really bad. I remember it in the Miami game last year. It looked like it really got sandwiched between two defenders, and the two defensive linemen, those are big bodies coming down on it for a guy that's already had a ACL tear in his career on a stupid play where he should have ran out of bounds. And you're looking at a case where the Raiders, being that they were still in the market for Aaron Rodgers at the time, Aaron Rodgers wasn't traded to the Jets yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we knew Derek Carr wasn't going to last, but they still were other quarterback rumors that could have happened.
Aaron Rodgers never wanted to go to the Raiders.
No, I know
everything that we've heard. He came out and said it. I know he wants to play with Devontae Adams, and I wouldn't be surprised at the trade deadline if he becomes available. That I don't know about the Jets because they don't have a first-round draft pick. But hey, you know what? If the Raiders just want to get rid of the contract and the Jets could fit it, if they move some pieces, I don't know if it happens. But Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers want to play together. So maybe they release him or they drop him, or it hurts their cap, and maybe it becomes. I don't know, but I don't see them doing that because he's too good of a player still for them to just say, you know what, sayonara, because he's still at the top of his game.
But even if they weren't going to get him realistically, they were still in the running for it at the time. At the start of free agency, mid-March, they were still thought of as one of the teams in the running for Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, at the time. Yeah, not obviously he then announced later on.
I'm talking about the Jets with Devontae Adams.
But the Raiders at that point doesn't have to be impulsive because of that too. Jimmy Garoppolo was going to probably stay on the market for a while too because a lot of teams were questioning his foot injury. There were a lot of people that weren't thinking he was going to get signed at all, and maybe he was going to have to go back to San Francisco anyway, like he did the year before. So as a result, they had so much time to figure it out, do your due diligence on the foot injury, and not have to sign him for that much money before you knew what was going on. And then Jimmy G takes the surgery after the fact, so now he's going to lose money as a result. It looks really bad both ways.
Jimmy G has to stop hanging out with Playboy models, okay? By the way, the Yankees are up 3-0 on a blast. Who is that? 61. Is that Donaldson?
No.
No.
Must be one of the kids.
No, it's the kid. What's his name again? The kid that hit a home run last night. He's been hot. But with a B. Bauer. It was Bauer.
Oh, Bowers. Okay. I didn't know what number he was. Okay.
It was Bowers again. He's cranking him right now. He hit one. He hit a 2-run shot yesterday, and now he hit a 3-run. That's crazy. I mean, the kids are starting to produce, man. He's starting to produce.
Oh, take lessons, Buck Showalter.
Yeah, they're producing. And Volpe, even though he's batting 198, I think he has like 12 stolen bases and
a lot of walks too.
A lot of walks. Yes, he draws a lot of walks, and he just needs to start seeing the ball, and he will. He's still young. He's 20 years old. He's the youngest player the Yankees called up since Derek Jeter. So I expect him to develop. And remember, Gleyber Torres came up when he was 22. So, right. And Gleyber's going to be asking for a lot of money too. And the Yankees smashed the Seattle Mariners top 100 pitcher that played. I think he played his first game last night. So,
the kid Miller, who's pitched really well so far in his first 5 games of his career. I think that's who was pitching yesterday. He had a 1.88 ERA or something like that, which I think he had some kind of rookie record either with the franchise or.
Oh, I thought it was his first game.
No, he's pitched this year and he's been phenomenal. But now they're hitting off of Logan Gilbert, who's their best pitcher.
I mean, the Yankees smashed him last night. They absolutely killed him. And right now, Seattle, the Yankees have been hitting the ball and they're getting hot and they're getting healthy. the Yankees have a lot of guys coming back. And we have not seen their star off the season pitcher. And you know who I'm talking about. Mr. Rodon, who he will be in this lineup one way or another this year. I think you would expect him in June, sometime at the end of June.
Yeah.
So probably be another 2 or 3 weeks because he has to go, get his spring training in because he didn't have much of it.
Right. He'll have to do a couple rehab starts, maybe a bullpen session here.
So I expect him to be back at the end. Carlos Rodon will be in this rotation. And when he comes back, I mean, look at the rotation. I mean, Cortez hasn't really pitched the way he did last year, but I think he'll get hot. Luis Severino looked pretty good since he's been back. Garrett Cole did not look good the other day, but nevertheless, the Yankees are smacking the ball, so it doesn't really matter.
He was due for a slump at some point.
Yeah, but nevertheless, the Yankees, their rotation could be up to par, and hopefully this relief pitchers, some of the relief pitchers, Loizica and some of their guys come. Canley comes back. Canley should be back in next week, so they should be at full strength. All right, and A-Rod and the Doug Mientkiewicz situation. All right, so Doug Mientkiewicz took shots at his Yankee teammate Alex Rodriguez, who he played with in 2007 and also played with in high school. They were friends, by the way, and Doug was his wide receiver, and Alex was his quarterback. And I know this stuff. Doug said on a Foul Territory podcast about A-Rod, I've always said this, he's going to die a lonely man. Why would he say that? Doug also said that A-Rod's legacy with the Yankees is tainted with a steroid suspension in 2014. He said about the steroid suspension, it's like, wait a minute, do you forget you got suspended for 200 games? It's like, come on, man, stop it. I get it. I played a power position and didn't have any. Did it cross my mind? Didn't it cross my mind? Of course, you thought about it, but I was like, you know what? I want to be able to walk when I'm 50 years old. Alex Rodriguez had 696 career home runs. 351 of those were with the Yankees. Doug Mientkiewicz had 66 home runs in his entire career. I will say this. There must be some kind of feud, okay? These guys were good friends, and they grew up together in high school. They were best buds. I remember when they played together. And A-Rod had nothing but good things to say, and Doug had nothing but good things to say. But to obviously sell whatever he's trying to sell right now because he has no meaning to the game of baseball anymore, and he never did when he did play, and A-Rod does, he's trying to create a story. And I will be very surprised if A-Rod retaliates. I cannot see Alex Rodriguez retaliating on this. Honestly, Mientkiewicz is a nobody, and I think A-Rod knows that. I think baseball is always going to look at Alex Rodriguez as a tainted player because he did steroids.
Yeah.
Okay. But nevertheless, there's a lot of great players that have done a lot of bad things and they're in the Hall of Fame. Do I think Alex Rodriguez is one of the greatest shortstops to ever play? There's no doubt in my mind. Okay. Do I think Alex Rodriguez was a better all-around shortstop than Derek Jeter? There's no question. To sit here and look at, and we've talked to so many specialists when it comes to guys that have played in league and guys that never played in the league that have done steroids. And they've told us many, many times that doing steroids only keeps you on the field. It can help you with some kind of power, but how much? And it doesn't make you see the ball better. It's not giving you like Superman powers. Okay. The fact that everybody is always after Alex Rodriguez. I mean, for some reason, Alex Rodriguez is the talk of the town. Nobody wants to go after Barry Bonds or even Mark McGwire or Sammy Sosa, who all of them have really admitted that they did steroids. Okay. And they all are not going to the Hall of Fame. For Alex Rodriguez to come out twice and admit, and yes, he threatened to kill somebody. We all know the stories about Alex Rodriguez. Is he a good guy? No. I'm not saying that Alex Rodriguez is a good guy. What I know about him, he was nice to me, and he didn't threaten me. He didn't tell me he was going to kill me. All right. I don't know the full story, and whatever we're hearing from other people, it's a he said, she said thing. All right. So what I do know is people have been throwing this guy under the bus for years. This guy has not played the game of baseball in over 7 years. 7 years. Okay. He is a past tense player. I mean, he's been on the Hall of Fame ballot for what, 3 years? He's probably not getting into the Hall of Fame. It's a shame. It really is. It's a shame that Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire and all these guys aren't going to get into the Hall of Fame because I think they were big, big to the league and big to the game when they did play, and they saved the game. They really did. So, and I blame Bud Selig, who, by the way, is in the Hall of Fame. Right. So how does that make sense? All right. He was a used car salesman who took over as the commissioner of baseball because nobody wanted the damn job. And this guy allowed all that stuff to happen. And now you sit here and all these guys are getting thrown under the bus, including Alex Rodriguez, which, by the way, Bud Selig was hunting Alex Rodriguez. He wanted to torture Alex Rodriguez because even though Alex Rodriguez was the face of baseball for quite a few years before Derek Jeter took over, and that was because he did steroids, I think it's a mockery to know that the commissioner knew what was going on and still let it go. So if he let it go and it was okay at the time, why is that ass in the Hall of Fame?
Because the writers are selective and don't know what they're doing when it comes to judging modern standards. Yes, you could say that the steroids, quote unquote, tainted some aspects of it, but you're not going to say it's going to taint an entire Hall of Fame legacy like Alex Rodriguez and Barry Bonds had, and Roger Clemens and some of these other guys. And that's what a lot of people are taking shots at, like Doug Mientkiewicz just doing here, because yes, it might hurt your place in overall MLB history. Are you going to say A-Rod is the best hitter of all time because of that?
Please.
No. Are you going to say A-Rod is the best Yankee of all time because of that? No. You want to say that taints that part of his legacy? Okay. But to say he's going to go die alone a painful death or whatever, like that's just, that's a little extreme for his standards for a guy that had a feud with him just because he played for him for 1 year. Like crazy.
It's an embarrassment. And for him to open up his mouth and attack somebody that has not said anything about you, by the way, could care less what you think, I'm sure. I mean, why would Alex Rodriguez care what he has to say? Honestly, I mean, the guy is not even in the same tune of voice. Actually, he's not in the same note of a mute. Like if you hit a piano key, he's not even in the same key.
He's out of tune.
Yeah, he's out of tune. I mean, and that's why he's trying to make this a story, and I don't think it's going to sell. And if it does, I feel bad because Alex Rodriguez he's going to the bank, man. I mean, eventually Alex Rodriguez can own a baseball team. You think he cares what Doug Mientkiewicz says?
Part owner of Timberwolves. So.
I mean, who cares? I just think it's a joke. I really do. And the fact that he said something good for him. I mean, you just threw probably one of your closest friends under the bus, okay, just to try to sell a story.
Right. And I'm sure a lot of people have mocked A-Rod throughout their time watching baseball too. Like all these fans, all right, it's easy to do, but still, like it's not going to taint your entire legacy where he's not one of the greatest players ever because of it.
He is the best player of this era, okay? Everybody keeps looking at Barry Bonds and Albert Pujols and Miguel Cabrera. Go look at the numbers and match them, okay? It's not... when you try to match these guys' numbers to Alex Rodriguez, I mean, besides Barry Bonds, none of them, not even Albert Pujols is a great power hitter, one of the greatest power hitters of all time. I know he had hit over 700 home runs, and Alex Rodriguez didn't. If you compare Alex Rodriguez's numbers to Albert Pujols, I'm taking Alex Rodriguez's numbers, and we don't even know if Albert Pujols did steroids. So at any time of his career, so whatever. I mean, they're both great players, and they're both obviously Albert Pujols will go to the Hall of Fame. And so will Miguel Cabrera because he was the last Triple Crown winner.
Oh yeah,
but we don't know what they did, and I'm not assuming anything. But Mike Piazza, a lot of people have said he did steroids. Plenty of people said he did steroids, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Jeff Bagwell, a lot of people believe. I mean, the guy blew up. Okay. And then all of a sudden when he retires, he shrinks. He looks like a skinny, scrawny guy. I mean, do you think that's just something, that's never happened?
And he just got in year 2, I think. So
I mean, come on.
It's too early.
Jeff Bagwell was not anywhere close to the player Alex Rodriguez was. Right. I'm sorry. He's not. The comparison is completely different. So whatever. I just think it's a joke. And I think the baseball writers need to open up their eyes. Put an asterisk around their name because they did steroids. I mean, that's what I would do. But you can't keep them out of the Hall of Fame. They've been, they're a big part of the past of baseball. And the fact you have their jerseys, you have their bats, they have their balls in the Hall of Fame. And you're obviously promoting that, but you're not going to promote them going into the Hall of Fame and giving them a stupid plaque. Give me a break. Right. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Baseball Hall of Fame, shame on you. All right, Speedy. So bracket wars tonight. We have the number 10 seed, Serena Williams, versus the number 7 seed, Lionel Messi, versus, and the number 15 seed, Sandy Koufax, versus the number 2 seed, Wayne Gretzky.
All right, here we go.
It's time for bracket. It's time for bracket wars.
All right, we'll start with the 10-7 matchup. Serena Williams and Lionel Messi.
Serena Williams has 23 Grand Slam titles, the most by a woman in tennis player open history. Okay, Serena has 858 singles wins, 4th most all time, 73 total titles, 5th most all time. Serena and her sister Venus also won 14 Grand Slam titles in doubles and 192 career wins as a double player. Williams was the number 1 player in the world for 186 consecutive weeks, tied for the most all time. Williams is the only player to accomplish a Golden Slam, winning all 4 major tournaments in the same year in both singles and doubles. Honestly, I believe Serena Williams is the greatest women's athlete of all time. I mean, in any sport. She absolutely dominated the game of tennis. When you compare her to some of the greats, the Pete Sampras's of the world, the Andre Agassi's of the world, or the, Steffi Graf's, or anybody.
Navratilova.
Navratolova's not even. Steffi Graf would be the closest thing to her, honestly, when it comes to women's singles, competitive, tennis. But not even that. Even the golf players, even the basketball players, any women's athlete, don't even come close to this woman. This woman completely dominated as a women's player. So there's nothing bad to say about her. She's one of the greatest athletes ever play in any sports. Look at the 858 singles wins. You will never see anybody break that again. I guarantee you. In tennis, women's history, you will never. And not many men will get 858 wins. So, it's unbelievable feat.
And again, you mentioned it, like there's not many women's athletes that have that kind of longevity too. And that's why among women's athletes that are in this bracket, she was the highest seed, the only one that's a top 12 seed, I believe. I think the next highest was a 13. And she has such good longevity. The doubles really mean a lot too, because Venus Williams didn't have the same longevity that Serena did either. And she was still winning amidst that later in her career too. So very impressive what she's able to do even later in her career.
The number 7 seed, Lionel Messi. Messi has 496 goals, 221 assists in 19 seasons of league play with Barcelona and Paris. He also has 131 goals and 41 assists in his international cup competition with Barcelona and Paris. With Argentina, Messi has scored 102 goals and has 13 goals in 5 World Cup appearances. Messi has played for Argentina's national team since 2005 and in the league play since 2004. Messi has won a Ballon d'Or award, MVP equivalent 7 times, and the La Liga best player 8 times, and was the FIFA Player of the Year 3 times. Messi has won 11 championships in league play with Barcelona, 4 championships in the Champions League play with Barcelona, and won his first World Cup this past year with Argentina. I mean, you can argue Lionel Messi could go down as the greatest soccer player of all time. I don't think he is. I mean, right now, he's playing with some great players, Ronaldo being one of them. And Messi, I think, is the most overall talented player when it comes to passing and scoring. But there are a ton of good players that are going to retire with, not numbers like him, but similar. And, soccer is a growing sport, and it's going to only grow even more, not just European, in the European end, but even in the American end. So he's still one of the greatest soccer players of all time. He's going on his 20th season. I mean, it's a remarkable career, and he's made a ton of money, over $1 billion American money. So it's crazy. Pounds and pounds of money. So.
Yeah, Champions League too is a very tough feat every year because those are the best teams from all over the European continent too. It's not just you're dealing with just Spain or just England.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of good competitions, and he was able to win a lot of titles there. I know people will mock them for the Argentina not winning the World Cup until just this year, breaking that long.
It's the biggest sport in the world.
Yeah, but again, that's a small sample size in comparison to these much larger feats. So I don't think you could downgrade Messi because of that.
People have been saying Lionel Messi has been the best player in the world for 20 years in soccer, which is a world sport. I mean, that by itself just tells you everything you have to know about who he is and how talented he is. So who do you have, Speedy?
I'm going to take Serena Williams, though. Here's the reason. I think you mentioned it earlier. Like, he's played with a lot of really good teams. Like, a lot of soccer people that I know say that Barcelona sometimes was like the Yankees, or what the people think of the Yankees. They buy everybody. Like, Barcelona was that soccer equivalent for a while. And Serena Williams, I think, playing individually and then playing with her sister too, it's a lot harder to control that kind of thing. Both sports are hard to control, but I think the longevity with her is a little more impressive with that. So I'm going to go with her.
I am going to go with Serena Williams as well. I mean, 858 single wins. I mean, that explains it all. I don't think anybody, when it comes to the women, in tennis history, will ever break that number. I mean, it's ridiculous. 73 total titles. I mean, it's ridiculous. The amount of money she won just winning tournaments is just unbelievable. I mean, if you haven't seen the movie King, what's their father's name? I'm sorry, I forget it, but
I forgot.
King Richard. That's right. If you ever seen King Richard, the movie, it was a fantastic movie. It's a story really about Venus Williams and her growth as a player, and how her father, both their father, when Serena was upset that she wasn't getting the spotlight, her father at the end of the movie came up to her and says, "You see what Venus is? You're going to be the greatest tennis player ever." And Serena said he did say that when she was a kid, and he was right. She's going to go down as one of the greatest tennis players ever, not just women players. So I am going to go with Serena Williams.
All right, so we disagreed twice last week, so we finally have one agreement, I think, for the third time in this bracket wars.
Yes. All right. And the final, number 15 seed Sandy Koufax versus the number 2 seed Wayne Gretzky. Koufax had a career record of 165 and 87 with a 2.76 ERA, 1.1 WHIP, and 2,396 strikeouts in 2,326 innings of pitched. Koufax was a 7-time All-Star, won a pitching triple crown 3 times, the ERA title 5 times, and won the MVP in 1963. In 4 postseason years, Koufax had a 0.95 ERA and a 61 strikeouts, and the Dodgers won the World Series in all 4 of those seasons. Koufax also won a World Series MVP twice. Koufax had over 200 strikeouts in 6 times in his career, and over 300 strikeouts 3 times. Koufax had 3 seasons where he finished with an ERA under 2 and had 2 different seasons with 27 complete games. I'm going to say this, all right? I don't like this matchup because I think Sandy Koufax is just as good as Wayne Gretzky was at his respectable sport. The fact that he played 27 complete games, not any pitcher of this era will ever do, okay? Ever come close to that. The pitchers and pitching those days, they ran these guys out like clockwork and beat these guys' arms up. And by the way, Sandy Koufax, and you can ask anybody, never played during the Sabbath. When the playoffs are around, his father would not let him play when the Sabbath was going on the weekend. So he was about his religion. And he really pushed his religion and where he was in the game of baseball and who he was in the game of baseball because of his religion. Sandy Koufax will go down as one of the top 3 pitchers of all time. Some people say the greatest pitcher of all time. And in the dominance, look at the dominance. 7-time All-Star. That's not even it. Here's the number. Just think about it this way. He had a 0.95 ERA in 4 postseason years. 0.95. The only person that came close to his number is Mariano Rivera, and he was a relief pitcher. This guy was a starter. Okay, so you could argue he's the greatest pitcher to ever play the game. So
definitely the greatest lefty pitcher for sure. I mean, probably the second best is Warren Spahn, and he's ahead of Warren Spahn by a pretty big margin when it comes to lefties. And you're looking at somebody that had trouble initially in Brooklyn getting it going. My grandfather was telling me when he was a kid, like he had a lot of issues with his control for a while.
He wasn't 100% healthy.
It took him a while to get going. And we always say, like, lefties take a little longer to get going than right-handed pitchers. But when he got going. He probably had the best.
His career was cut shortly.
Yeah,
too.
right. He had probably the best peak years when you're judging 8 years specifically that you'll ever see of any
you will never see
player.
anybody come close.
And again, for a lefty pitcher, a lot of strikeouts, a great efficiency, and great postseason numbers too. For the Dodgers team just moving to LA too, a lot of times there's pressure in a new city. He did it.
Honestly, you can argue he's the greatest pitcher to ever play the game. Honestly, it's that. And I know you look at his wins to loss record, 165 and 87. He didn't pitch enough. Okay. I mean, the guy was injury prone his whole career, but that's because they used them over and over and over again. He was pitching every fourth day, not 5 days, every fourth day. They would start 4 pitchers. So it's remarkable. 27 complete games, 27. It's crazy. CC Sabathia, his career, he played how many years? What was it, 19?
I think it was, let's see, started in 2004, I believe. So, yeah, probably about 15, yeah.
15 years, he had, I think it was 7 or 8 complete games. Right. 7 or 8. You're talking about double. And CC played in more games, okay? That's ridiculous.
You're not going to see 27 complete games in baseball this year.
You won't see 27, in baseball with all the pitchers in the league. It's ridiculous. You're not going to see 5. I don't think you're going to see 5 pitchers pitch complete games this year. I don't. How many were last year? How many complete games were last year? I bet you it was.
I think there's only 4 at the start of this year, as it was. So I think
complete games this year.
Yeah,
really?
I heard something where there were 4. Already.
I didn't even know there were that many complete games this year. I'm surprised because I don't remember last year having that many complete games.
Yeah, it was. I think it was something like 18 last year total.
Interesting. Gretzky, 894 goals and 1,963 assists in his career, 2,857 total points. Gretzky had 4 seasons with over 70 goals, 11 seasons with over 100 assists, and 9 seasons over 150 points. Gretzky was 15-time All-Star, won an Art Ross Trophy 10 times, and won the Hart Trophy 9 times, which is the most ever. Gretzky had 81 goals and 171 assists and 252 total points in the playoffs and won 4 Stanley Cups with the Oilers. Gretzky has 2,857 points, are 921 above the next highest player with Jaromir Jagr. He also had 714 assists ahead of Ron Francis for most in NHL history, and 72 goals ahead of Alex Ovechkin for the most goals in NHL history. Let's be honest. I will say this. I do not think Wayne Gretzky is the greatest player of all time in hockey because I think Mario Lemieux was cut short with his career because of cancer. And he missed 5 seasons. I think he would have broken his goal record. I think he would have come close to assist record. Close. Not necessarily. And remember, Gretzky played a little bit later. You know, he was drafted a little bit later. I think Gretzky was in the league, 5-6 years before Mario Lemieux was.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
So Mario was a big guy, powerful guy, but I'm not going to take away Wayne Gretzky. When you look at the numbers and statistics, Wayne Gretzky is the greatest player to ever play the game. There's no question that he was. He was the face of hockey. He will always be known as the great one, and the name will never be lost in the hockey finesse of sports.
When you have a number retired across the league as can never be worn again by anybody, that shows your greatness.
Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, Jackie Robinson did it for greatness in so many different things, and Wayne Gretzky did it in hockey for so many different things. Like, that has to say a lot about that. And yes, Alex Ovechkin might break the goals record if he plays maybe another 2 years in the league. He might. But besides that, a lot of these other records are never going to be broken. It's just insane what Wayne Gretzky was able to do. And then he did it with the Kings too. He did it with the Blues. Like, he did it with so many different teams even after he left from Edmonton too, and just played phenomenally. 200-point seasons we'll never see again either. It's
just insane. And he had 4 of them in his career and so many 150s. Just crazy.
Who will you go with?
I got Gretzky in this one. You're right. It's a tough matchup for somebody like Koufax, who a lot of people consider the greatest matchup. But again, he didn't have the longevity the same way, unfortunately, because of the injury. So it's got to be Gretzky.
If you put him against any pitcher or any baseball player in the bunch of baseball players that you had besides Babe Ruth, I would probably take Sandy Koufax. I really would. But unfortunately, he's matched up against Wayne Gretzky, and some people would say the greatest hockey player to ever play the game. I am going to go with Wayne Gretzky. 894 goals, 1,963 assists in his career, 2,857 total points. As we told you the numbers, I mean, it's ridiculous. Is 921 points more than any player behind him. That's Jaromir Jagr. Yeah. That's like that's another 5-6 seasons. I mean, nobody's ever going to break the points record. I don't think anybody's ever going to break. Not even Connor McDavid.
Nope.
Or maybe Bedard. Well, we'll see. I mean, he's young, and the guy is a prolific offensive player. That's what they say. So we'll see what he turns out.
But even McDavid's top seasons are 150. They're not 200 something like we're seeing with Gretzky.
Hey, we don't know what this Bedard kid could be. He could go down as the greatest. We'll see. I mean, we've heard about his shot. We heard about his offensive skill and his ability. We'll see what happens. So it's going to be fun. I know Carl is excited because he's going to Chicago.
I'm sure he is.
Koufax or A-Rod?
Koufax.
I'm going to go with Koufax too. Yeah. A-Rod's one of the greatest players, but Sandy Koufax was a shutdown pitcher. And I'm going with the pitcher that just completely dominated for 7-8 years. Honestly, you'll never, ever, ever, ever see a pitcher pitch dominantly like Sandy Koufax did 7 straight seasons where he was unhittable. I mean, when people try to compare all these other different pitchers that are trying to compare the comparison to him, who is going to Chicago? Connor Bedard, who's going to be the number 1 pick, who's going to Chicago. So you should be excited. I've read a lot about this kid. I don't know. Everybody keeps saying, and I know my agent Brian, he's been telling me that he's the real deal. But there are a couple of really good players in this year's draft class. This is going to be really good. The top 7-8 picks are going to be fun. I think not just Connor Bedard. There's the Russian kid that's going to be good. I've been talking
about
from
Michigan's pretty good too.
Yes, I mean this is a good draft. You're going to see a lot of good players. I expect him to develop, and I expect him to be fun to watch. So it's going to be fun. Just need him to be like Kane. Honestly, he is a much better player than Kane. I'm just telling you what I think he is. And Kane's a great player, and so is Tames. He is much better than Tames too. Okay, I mean Tames doesn't even come close to this kid. I will predict this: Connor Bedard in his rookie season will have 40 goals. He will have 40 goals this coming season with Chicago. He will score 40 goals as a rookie. He will be the rookie of the year. There's no question that he will be. I expect him to be a 40, 50 goal scorer every season. That's what he is. He is a complete prototype goal scorer. That's what he is. So I expect that. I understand Carl Stroman pitched a complete game. Got it.
Good. We have 6 of them on the year or whatever.
Got it.
We'll get to 27 at some point. Maybe not this season though.
I mean, it's incredible what Sandy Koufax did. It really is. And nobody can sit here and say that it wasn't. Okay, and it's a shame you put him against, and you put a lot of guys against guys that you shouldn't have put him against. I understand you're trying to rate him, but I want to know how you kind of rated. How you position him as a ranking of number 15. I understand we're great players, but I don't know. It's definitely interesting, and I'm looking. Well, who do we have tomorrow? We have the matchups tomorrow.
All right, we'll do Shaun White and Roger Federer. That's a 6-11 matchup, and we will do. Let's say Rafael Nadal and Hank Aaron is another one.
Huh? Interesting. All right. Who do we have tomorrow?
Thursday. It's actually Thursday.
I'm sorry. Thursday. I'm sorry. I keep
Thursday, definitively at 10 o'clock. Returning to the show, he was on probably about a year and a half ago. Jason DiRenzo, he does scouting work, NFL, college, and high school football. Does writer for Devi Watch as well at 10 o'clock and 10:30. Jeff, you'll like this. Hopefully, we'll have him on. He hasn't responded in a week, but Warren Brinson, defensive lineman who plays for Georgia.
Oh, there you go. That'll be fun. When did you speak to him?
Last week. He responded on Friday. He was actually willing to come on. Like he responded to me like 10:30 on Thursday. He wanted to come on, and they responded to me during the show. So I'm like, God, no, we can't do that. But we can schedule it for next week. But he hasn't responded since. Hopefully we'll get him as well. Jeff, you'll be happy. A Georgia Bulldog, hopefully on our show.
So there you go. So it'll be interesting. Thank you to Fireman Ed. Thank you for joining us. It was the first time we had him on the show. Fantastic. Unbelievable interview. Very interesting guy. Big Jet fan. He's been the face of the Jet fan for many, many years. I know Jeff don't like him. I love him. So I thank him for joining us. Thank you to John Daigle. He was fantastic as well. I mean, John Daigle's always fantastic. Who's trying to call?
Jeff, you want to put him on? Or
let's put him on quickly. Let's hear what he has to say.
All right, Jeff.
Jeff, what do you have to say before we go?
I'm off the dog bandwagon this year.
What? Oh, Jeff. What happened to the three Pete's?
No, I'm off the dog bandwagon. I must retire my fandom from the Bulldogs. It's just been such a massacre. I cannot root for the front runner anymore.
Oh.
I'm not going front runner. I'm not these Alabama pricks. You know what I'm saying? So I brought the Georgia Bulldogs greatness. You're welcome. And now I'm going to move on, and I'm going to choose another team to root for.
Who do you have?
I don't know. I'm leaning Tennessee Volunteers right now.
Okay.
I'm leaning Tennessee Volunteers right now, but I'm also not opposed to maybe some Brian Kelly love in LSU.
Interesting. I have the Trojans this year. I think the Trojans could be a national champion.
Fuck the Trojans. The Trojans will never win. They're never going to win.
Why? Because they're all offense and no defense?
Zero defense. Zero defense. They lost twice in the season last year to Utah and then got body bagged by Tulane in the bowl game. Tulane! No defense. Lincoln Riley teams do not play defense. What's Lincoln Riley's history in any bowl game? Steamroll my way through the regular season because we'll play nobody. And then we're going to play an SEC team in the semifinal, and it'll be over at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, pretty much. Except for the first year, 2017, they played a closer with Georgia. That was the only one.
I mean, they get steamrolled every time, dude.
Right.
They're Michigan light.
Michigan light. At least Michigan can play defense. If you combine the two, they might be able to do something, but who knows?
Right, like this is the problem with a lot of college teams. Like just a lot of college teams. I know I pick on Michigan. I'm sorry, I don't need to pick on Michigan all. It's just fun.
Oh, we know.
But USC is the anti-Michigan. They're all defense, no offense.
Well,
right? Like you gotta have some balance there. There's got to be something going on there.
Interesting.
You know? So I may lean to Tennessee because Joe Milton probably wins the job, but I like that kid Nico. He's a freshman, Nico, whatever. That's going to be the quarterback going forward. And I'm a big Josh Heupel guy. I loved him when he was at the Bounce House. That was a fun place to go watch a game.
Yeah, Nico Yamaleva. Is that how you pronounce it? Yamaleva.
I have no idea how to pronounce it.
Oh, here it is. Yamaleva.
Yeah, I'm just going Nico. He's like Pele or Maradona.
This guy Bowers, he's some power hitter, man. He's hitting the ball hard, man. He's smacking the ball all over the place. I mean, I watched him. When I went to Yankee Stadium. I mean, he didn't hit the ball much, but he's been getting a hold of these balls, man, for the last couple of games.
Well, the Yankees need a lefty that could hit. So
he almost hit this one out. It was on the warning track.
Yeah, it could have been out in other ballparks. You wonder. It's a big ballpark here in Seattle.
I think I made you that. I may declare. I'll go ahead and do it. I'll declare right now. I'm a Tennessee fan this year.
All right,
there we go.
I like it.
Me and Smokey. Love that dog.
There you go.
Thank you, Jeff.
You know,
we'll talk to you Thursday.
That sounds great.
He's funny. He's stupid.
Off the Georgia bandwagon on the Tennessee bandwagon.
Tennessee. Good for him.
I don't know. Again, it wouldn't surprise me. We discussed this a while ago. It wouldn't be surprising if they repeat, though, because, again, they have a pretty easy schedule. And, some guys drafted, but they still have a lot of good recruits. So
we'll see. We'll see. Again, we'll be back on Thursday. I'm sorry to the fans if you expected us to be on tomorrow. We're not. We are off tomorrow. We will be on Thursday. So it's usually Wednesday, Thursday. This week it's Tuesday, Thursday. We'll be back. Thank you to Ed. Fireman Ed, thank you to John Daigle. You both were fantastic. Thank you to all the fans. Thank you to everybody that tune in to us every single week. Thank you to every single fan that tunes in through our stream, tunes in through all the different parts of the markets that we're on all the different platforms that we're on. We really appreciate you guys as always, and we'll be back on Thursday. Good night.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.